And we're live. Hey everyone, my name is Anthony Johnson, founder and CEO of 21 Studios and the 21 Convention, proudly hosting the Red Man Group today on 21 Live, formerly known as the Red Pill Mafia. I have with me, of course, not only myself, Anthony Johnson, I have Carl from Black Label Logic, Donovan Sharp, Rollo Tomasi from the Rational Mail, and Ryan Stone. Rollo and Ryan Stone are also alumni speakers of the 21 Convention. Gentlemen, thanks for hopping on.
Thanks for having me once again.
Yeah, good to be here.
Always
Hell
fun.
yeah. So before we get into today's two main themes and topics, which are going to be red pill theory to practice or application of the ideas, and then later purple pill profiteering, I want to check in with each of you and see what you guys have going on in terms of projects, recent blog posts, or issues that you guys wanted to kind of bring up and clear the field with, so to speak. Field's open to anyone who kind of wants to kick off on that.
Okay, I guess I'll go first. Yeah, I just wrapped up long-term relationship week on the Sharp Reality. My thanks goes out to Rollo Tomasi, of course, Ryan Stone. You guys both came on and dropped gems. The reason I did that is because a lot of guys don't really want to go out and slay sluts forever. And so bringing these guys on, I thought brought a very unique insight to this. As a matter of fact, Ryan, the solo show that I did yesterday was based very loosely on the 12 levels of dread, which went off very well. The listeners certainly appreciated that. Projects I've got going on, I'm working on, getting a mixer hooked up to my computer and starting to take calls. So that should liven up the show a little bit, and we'll be able to curse out haters and things of that nature. So that's what's going on here.
Sounds like fun. I'm looking forward to the same thing too at some point for this show. We'll get live and call-ins like we've talked about. Rollo, what do you have going on lately?
Well, let's see. I'm still making the rounds with regards to doing some live radio right now. I'm still doing Pat Campbell's show. I wish I could give somebody like an actual time, when I'm on. Usually, I'm on once a week, but what that day ends up being, I'm not really sure. And then I went on Jesse Peterson's show on Wednesday morning, which was pretty interesting. I think it's one thing that's happening right now in the mainstream is the idea of masculinity being toxic or masculinity being lacking is something that's really starting to hit the mainstream right now. And I think Jesse has always had an interest in talking about that stuff, but I'm finding that a lot of the people who are hitting me up for interviews, I want to talk about my third book, which is Positive Masculinity. And
Jesse Peterson is the really old black guy, right?
He's in his 60s for sure, but really interesting dude. Really, I mean, you can tell he's a professional interviewer because he knows the questions to ask, and he knows how to work with you as an interviewee, I guess. I've got another interview coming up on Monday with a guy whose name I just can't recall at the top of my head right now, but Rich Cooper had him on his show, and then this guy has a show as well. And he, of course, all they did was talk about me on Rich's show. So he's like, well, we should just get him on my show. So I'm like, so I agreed to that. So on Monday morning, I'll post it out and let everybody know what I'm doing. Cool. So pretty much just making the rounds right now. I am still deep in the weeds with the fourth book and doing the research for that. I actually finally got in touch with Dalrock, and we're bouncing ideas off of each other. I'll still be the author of the book, but at least now he's involved, and I've got probably like 3 or 4 other guys involved in that project, which is book 4 of the Rational Mail, which is going to focus mostly on religion. And then the book I'm reading right now is this one right here. If you can see, this is hormonal.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, this is hormonal. Hormonal is the first and only book I know by Dr. Marty Hasselton. And anybody who knows who she is the UCLA evolutionary psychologist that I quote quite a bit, for her research and her colleagues' research as well. And I think a lot of people don't understand. They think that Rollo Tomasi, all he does is just throw out his opinion. It's all anecdotal. He doesn't know, he never gives you any peer-reviewed studies. And I'm like, no, I do quite a bit. It's just people are too intellectually lazy to look up the sources that I do cite. And she happens to be one of them. Now, I was going to write a full book review on this, but I'm kind of deciding that I'm not going to do that now because the book is great. It's chock full of information that I've been quoting really for the last almost 10 or 12 years on my blog and way back on SoSuave. But the book is really written for, as nicely as I can put this, it's written for an 8th grade reading level. And it's written to women. And I love Marty Hasselton, but she feels the need to, establish her feminist cred every introduction to every chapter. And I think maybe she's worried that feminists are going to take this and they're going to, string her up for it, kind of like they did with Cassie J. Yeah. And so I'm just going to leave it alone. I still think it's a great book. And I still think if you can get past her, her feminism, I really never even thought of her as a feminist. I just thought of her as a research scientist, but she seems to want to promote that idea. And I really think that's more for book sales than anything else. And there's a lot of really kind of silly asides and non-information that you have to sort of wade through to get to the real information. But
so you think she's like basically you think she's appeasing the feminists throughout the book?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I know she's done that before because she's been called to the carpet quite a bit, with regard to some of her research, because women simply don't like to have this information out in the wild. And so whenever she gives a talk or whenever she puts out a new research of some sorts, it's the first people to come and refute her are feminists. And then it's somebody else and everybody piles on. And it's basically feminism that wants us to all believe that there's a blank slate, and because that's where feminism thrives, is on a blank slate. And with this book and with her research, there's just no denying that there's no such thing as a blank slate. So that's what I've been doing.
Cool. Ryan, what have you been up to?
Well, the boys at MRP have a pretty simple plan right now. Every once a year, we like to go back to the very basics. We call them the 60 Days of Dread. We're starting those up pretty soon. We just had an Ask Me Anything from one of the No More Mr. Nice Guy core group there, which is pretty neat. He's kind of cross-posting that between the No More Mr. Nice Guy sub as well as the Married Red Pill. 60 Days of Dread is essentially just the very simple stuff. I know I had talked with Donovan about the 12 Days of Dread, how first step is to build a frame, start lifting, start dressing better, and we just hit all the basics up. We find that if you leave guys to talk amongst themselves, they start getting a little abstract. And so we kind of like to bring it back to, well, yeah, but are you lifting weights? Are you dressing well? Are you being charming and somewhat presentable? Or are you being like a MRA type who's just crying about how girls took all his toys away or something stupid like that? So, and on top of that, did the podcast with Donovan. That was a lot of fun. He's got a really cool audience.
Where can we find smart guys over there?
Yeah,
Donovan and Ryan.
Go ahead.
Where's that podcast at? Is that on YouTube? Can you guys check that out?
Yeah. I'll go ahead and put the I'll put the link in here for you, Anthony, and you can tweet that out. Yeah, it's
I'll put it I'll put it actually underneath this video too in the description after the podcast. So 100%. Oh yeah.
Yeah, and then I'll just end it off with one of your readers said, after I was talking about the girls I was dating in my single days, they said I was probably gonna end up divorced by the end of the show. I'll have you know, everything's going well, fine. She gave me a big hug when I got done. She made me a coffee. She's pretty sweet. And that's it for me.
Cool.
Oh, and Guinness now got scotch.
Okay. Carl, you've had a couple blog posts come out, one or two since the last show, right?
I haven't actually had any because a while back I wrote a 5 or 6 part essay called On Value, where I went through the entire chain of different value judgment we can make. There's sexual market value, objective value, subjective value, etc. And I started another post where I'm trying to write an essay that puts that into kind of a macro perspective linked up towards the current trends of virtue, the performance burden, and a few other things, and trying to link that up to the bigger picture in our economy. So it's probably going to be a 3-parter, and I have 2 of the parts done, but I want to be able to post them rapidly after each other and make sure they're all linked together. So that's what I'm working on.
Cool. Good shit. So in terms of the show itself, we decided on two main topics to kind of split up the show into halves with. The first one is going to be red pill theory to practice, in the sense of applying red pill theories and ideas to actual game and intersexual dynamics. I can speak from personal experience that since finding the red pill, that it's absolutely been it's like steroids for game. Like I was literally banging a porn star right before I found the red pill, like a famous one. And I can say that since finding the red pill, my game has gotten like way better because I actually have an idea of like why these tactics and techniques are working, whether it's dark triad traits that are being used on purpose or more specific openers and things like that. So Rolo, do you want to kick this off in terms of how the red pill actually applies to game and why it's very complementary and compatible and not just like some random theory?
Well, I've always told anybody who's ever read my books, a lot of people will criticize me for saying, well, it's all theory and no practice. And I think that's kind of unfair because a lot of especially my earlier work was based on sort of, dissecting old game practices. So like if I was going to read Neil Strauss, or if I was reading Mystery Method, or if I was reading even some of the guys from RSD from the old stuff that they did, it was me applying my understanding of behavioral psychology to the dynamics and the things that they were teaching as practice. And I thought that was really interesting because I think one of the things that really got me was I remember Mystery saying something about how to use comfort in game, and was saying something about how, like, I think he read something about how airline the psychology of putting passengers on an airline and making them comfortable is making them less uncomfortable. And I thought that was really interesting because at the same time I was sort of reading about, pleasure and pain and stuff like that. And I think that when people enter into a particular environment or a particular context, and in this case, let's just say it's, you bought a ticket to go on an airplane and you're going to be uncomfortable because you bought the coach tickets and it's all you could afford, and you're going to sit there and you're going to be as comfortable as you possibly can in an uncomfortable environment and something that you were planning to be uncomfortable. So when you're planning ahead to be uncomfortable, you look at any little bit of comfort as some kind of good feeling or some kind of positive stroke, I guess, at that particular time. And Mystery at that time was trying to apply that principle to game. So when you look at game and you look at seduction, you have to have a willing participant in the first place. You've got to have somebody who wants to be seduced. But that person who is in that position, who wants to be, in this case, the chicks that are the women that you want to get with, they have to want to be seduced, first of all, but they also have committed themselves to a particular environment where they're open to being seduced. And so when I started teasing that out and I started, dissecting, just how, what the psychology was behind that, I thought it was actually really brilliant. I don't really think that, any of the older guys like Mystery or certainly not Neil Strauss, but some of the older guys from, the early 2000s, I don't think that they realized what it was they were doing. They were just out there doing it and they didn't know why things worked. It just did work. And so they were comparing notes. And remember, this is in the early days of the internet, really. I mean, when we don't even have Facebook at this time. We have forums like Alt Fast Seduction and some of these other, and even SoSwap was one of those forums back then.
Yeah. Yep.
And so that was really the only way you could bounce ideas off each other, because we didn't have WordPress back then, or we did, but it was very early version of WordPress. But so blogs weren't even that big a deal. And if you wanted to do a blog, you had to do it yourself. You had to know something about web design. You had to do all that. So you've only got just these forums that are facilitating these guys getting together and just basically comparing notes as guys. And I was in college at the time, and I was studying psychology as well as a Bachelor of Fine Arts. And one of the reasons I decided to double major was because I was starting to apply all of these, what I thought at the time were novel ideas towards seduction, and from a psychological standpoint. And I knew about evolutionary psychology back then, but it wasn't that big a deal because it was all there's different schools of psychology. And so I started applying the one that I knew that I always thought was the most rational version of psychology, which was behavioral psychology. So I started applying that to it. And that from that and from game, really game informed my theory at those times. And so game informs theory, and then theory goes back and informs game. So I've always said this on my site, where I say that, the red pill and game are mutual, like we have a mutual relationship. So guys go out there and they want to get laid, and they want to see what's going to work, and they apply themselves. And I picked out the psychological aspects of that, and then I kind of gave it back to them. And then once I started digging more into evolutionary psychology and then Evo Bio, you start using those principles, then you can sort of build on that. I think one of the reasons that what I do is so effective is I'm just able to articulate that a little bit better. It's not like I was just showing you a minute ago. There's, Marty Haselton has all this great research on, why women go into ovulatory shift, and what the behaviors are that they do during, their peak fertility window, dressing up more, more sensitive to masculinization of faces. And there's a whole, if you want, you could read my blog or you can read her research, but there's a whole just laundry list of behaviors that women go into when they get into that.
This brings up an interesting question. So you said that the relationship between the red pill and game is mutual. Would you say it's also reciprocal, the way they feed into each other?
Yeah, now, yes. In the early days, probably not as much as they do now. That's because we now recognize that there's this symbiotic relationship between game and the red pill, and that's why I'll never throw pickup artists under the bus. I'll never throw MGTOWs under the bus. I'll never throw even MRAs have something to add to it. As much as I disagree with a lot of their founding principles, I think that a lot of the information they put out there is definitely accurate, and we need people to do that. I just think that what they do with that information, I disagree with their practice to change.
Well, here's a point that I want to make, and first we'll go with Rollo, and then it's open the floor for anyone else to answer. Rollo and the red pill, all of you guys usually will not throw pickup artists and MGTOW under the bus for the most part, but they will happily throw the red pill under the bus. A good example would be pickup artists who are very successful with women can really go out and like Donovan said, just slay sluts, really kill it. But then they will happily throw the red pill under the bus, say you don't need it. And in a sense, they are explicitly, they're trying to discard the red pill, but implicitly they're using it and applying it in ways they probably don't realize. Mm-hmm. So what do you say to those guys, Rollo, and to anyone else after that, who will happily practice game and get laid and truly actually be successful at some point, and then just totally discard the red pill and say it's trash, it's a bunch of haters and nonsense?
Mm-hmm. I'll tell you this right now. It's in the first book, and one of my essays it's called the evolution of game, and it basically goes through what I just told you, how it was game, and then it went to red pill, and then the red pill has sort of compartmentalized itself into definite interests for different guys. So, like for instance, we have the married red pill forum right now. Why? Because guys are awakened while married, and they want to know how can they apply this to their lives. Same thing I would say it goes for, pickup artists have always been there. So they've always been a subset of the red pill, even though they didn't know they were a subset of the red pill then. And you have
the red pill or the manosphere, you mean?
Well, the manosphere and the red pill too. They were using red pill, what I would say red pill awareness in game, but they didn't really make the connection. They just knew what worked, right? They just turn the key on the car in the ignition and it goes. They don't care what, as long as the car works, right?
That was me, 100%.
Yeah. And then there's MRAs who, have their own interest. And I would say MRA guys, the majority of them are definitely red pill aware. I just don't think that they apply that knowledge in a way that is beneficial to them. And I don't think that they really understand that, there a lot of that information that they take, they apply it in a way that is egalitarian equalism. And that's where I disagree with them.
So they retain elements of the blue pill, you're saying?
Oh, absolutely. But they retain the parts of the blue pill that feminism has sort of indoctrinated them into. It's like if I talk to a guy like Dr. Warren Farrell, who I attribute this guy for my own unplugging a long time ago, but he's still unwilling to make that jump. He's unwilling to make that leap into truly understanding the red pill and understanding what it does for him, because he still believes that the lie that feminists have been selling, which is we can all be equal, we can have this gender parity, and I totally disregard that. I totally don't think that there's going to be anything like equality, and I think equality between the sexes has always been sort of this red herring. It's been this cover story for female supremacism, and that's a whole nother show we could probably do. But I think that all of these subsets of the red pill are just natural progressions. I was going to say MGTOW is also a natural progression of that. I think that everybody in the MGTOW sense is red pill. They're red pill aware. Now, what do they do with that? They go and they take that and they say, you know what, fuck it, I'm out. I don't want to deal with women anymore. And I mean, the most extreme ones. There's also, I think a lot of people really don't understand MGTOW, as they believe that it's just a bunch of bitter guys who are just checking out of the game, and they're trying to get other guys to check out of the game too. And that's what really upsets really blue pill tradcon mindsets, is that they think that they're promoting this idea of this disengagement with women. And to an extent they're right, but that's not the entire story of MGTOW. Yeah. But again, they're red pill aware, but once they're aware, what do they do with it? What do pickup artists do with it? What do MGTOWs do with it? What do MRAs do with it? What do married red pill guys do with it? And I think there needs to be an understanding that you can be red pill aware and still be blue pill, really, or still be locked into your blue pill understandings.
So I'm reading some of the questions here, just cracking up. Holy shit! Keep going.
So, anyways, I think that we need to understand that there's going to be subsets, and particularly what we were talking about earlier is that when red pill moves into the mainstream a little bit more, we need to have an accurate representation of that. And getting back to your question, like when I see a documentary called The Red Pill by Cassie J, that has nothing to do with the red pill and has really very, very little to do with men's rights. It has everything to do about her own personal story of, personal discovery, and it's all about her. And even to this day, here we are almost 2 years after the release of it. And I was saying this before, I said, this story is going to be all about her. And it still is all about her. Her TED Talks, all about her. It has nothing to do with the guys. I mean, they're just there as a vehicle. The MRA is happy to use feminists as a vehicle for their own message, but a smart feminist, like say Christina Hoff Sommers or Cassie J, sees them and manipulates and uses them to advance their own career and advance their own stories. And all we're left with is a Dean Esme and a Paul Elam crying on some documentary somewhere.
Imagine my shock that they used men.
Yeah, well, and just what you were saying before, and I'll finish up here, is that I think that red pill is a brand name right now that people want to apply and bastardize and use for their own ideologies. And MRAs are a good example of that, because when Elliot Rodgers shot up Santa Barbara, nobody wanted to have anything to do with the red pill, because he was talking about how he was red pill, and he left just tons and tons of YouTube videos about, how he hated alpha males, and he was part of pickup artist hate. And the guy was, he was anything but red. He was red pill aware, but what did he do with that? He took it and he used it to self-destruct and to kill other people, by the way, too. But during that time, look who threw the red pill under the bus. Well, it's the MRAs. They were the first ones out the gate to throw red pill under the bus. And I will say this, and I probably won't get asked on his show now by me saying this, but Joe Rogan threw the red pill under the bus at that time, because he didn't want to have anything to do with those guys, because that was that there's this stupid idea that red pill guys are just these angry, bitter misogynists who are there comparing notes with each other to be better, angry, bitter misogynists. It has absolutely nothing to do with that. Anger is definitely a phase of the red pill, but as a praxeology and as I won't even call it a movement, but just as an awareness and an understanding of intersexual dynamics, yes, anger is going to be part of that, but that anger is usually directed from within, not without.
Yeah, from your own past mistakes. Carl, did you want to hop in on this too?
Yeah, I just started thinking about the first piece of game advice I ever read back in 2002, 2003, and it was one sentence: attraction isn't a choice. And what that kind of led me into was if you look at it this way, that nobody makes a conscious choice to be attracted to anyone else, then you have to start looking at, you have the Corvettes, which is what everyone wants, and then you have a Toyota Prius, which is a car about as masculine as a BuzzFeed writer. Nobody would pick the Prius if they could pick any car without having to be sensible about it. And that made me think fitness cues are not really pragmatic. To carry an extra 20 pounds of muscle means you have less calories to survive. You require more calories every day. Your immune system suffers maybe a little bit because you have less energy to fight off bacteria. And this led me to Mystery's peacocking, which was essentially him putting himself out there and taking a risk in that, attack me, go ahead, I can defend myself, and my frame will be stronger for it, and my value goes up. And when you start looking at it this way, you have the pickup artists who work on those fitness cues, the non-pragmatic fitness cues, to the point where women are attracted to them no matter what. The women are not making the choice, they just simply are. Then you have the MGTOW, who are saying we're either unable or unwilling to do those fitness cues, so we're going to put our resources towards another end. And then you have the MRAs who are taking the position, hey, you know what? I don't want to waste a lot of time lifting weights and eating protein. Can't we just watch Netflix, chill, and eat pizza together? So you have three different strategies based on your own, let's call it, competitive advantage. And all of these are based on the same underlying theory, that is the red pill. And since the PUAs until now, that has gone from here is what you're supposed to do, and here is why it works. And the interesting thing is, if you start to tell someone how to fish, he can feed himself forever. But if you only fish for him every day, then once you go away, then he's going to starve again. And if you're selling product based on continuing to supply people with various scripts and techniques and gambits, then you end up with someone who's dependent on you. Whereas if you tell him, here's how you come up with your own shit, then he doesn't have to pay you anymore.
Okay. Donovan, did you want to hop on this as well?
Yeah, I actually had a few points to make with regards to what you said, Anthony. When you first found the red pill, you said it was like you had like a superpower or something like that.
It was like steroids.
Steroids, right? We're right. I equate the when a man first finds the red pill, just like Rollo said, you go through all kinds of stages, but there is that one moment where things just snap. Like all of a sudden, everything comes into focus. Just like the Matrix, the one of the very last scenes on the Matrix where Keanu Reeves' character Neo looks down the hallway and he sees all of the agents in code. He now understands, the Matrix. Well, I equate finding the red pill and everything snapping. It's almost like having X-ray vision, because you pick up on when everything just falls into place, you pick up on nuance, you pick up on verbal cues, nonverbal cues, slut tells, undercover slut tells. And like I tell my listeners this all the time, when you have true red pill awareness and red pill knowledge, when a girl is talking to you, it's as though you're watching like one of those Japanese kung fu flicks. Like they're talking and saying one thing, but you're seeing the subtitle on the bottom. So when a girl says to you, yeah, I used to be married and kids, but I decided to I wasn't where I wanted to be in life, so I got a divorce and I got on a reality show. What you're saying is that you cheated on your husband, took him for all he was worth because you got selfish and you wanted to do something selfish, regardless of this is how it goes. So
Donovan,
go ahead.
Donovan, would you say that red pill awareness helps you see past the behaviors into the motivations of why women say and do what they do?
Absolutely. And something else the red pill teaches you is that women aren't complicated at all. Women, honestly, women are as simple as a white door. They're not, and the way women have been sort of packaged to us since birth is that women are these complex creatures. They're mysterious, and how to understand women. And there's a book as thick as the Bible. No, women are simple. they're very simple to understand, and it's very simple to find out what motivates them, which is basically them. Women are inherently selfish, just like men are, but figuring out women is not that hard. You just have to understand what makes them tick and why they do what they do. On Cassie J's The Red Pill, I actually remember seeing a guy who was being interviewed by some chick on the news about some guy renouncing the red pill. This guy went on and said, yes, I wasn't doing that well with women, and I looked up the red pill and I tried the strategies and it didn't work. This goes exactly to what Carlos said about teaching a man to fish and he can feed himself for life. What a lot of men do, they make the mistake of learning pickup lines and strategies and techniques and learning to become a PUA instead of cultivating their lifestyle to live the red pill lifestyle. Teaching a man to fish is exactly the same thing as lifting weights, getting your financial house in order, learning what makes a woman tick. The red pill is not a strategy, it's a lifestyle. And by virtue of just sheer human behavior, the higher your value is by cultivating all of these other things other than getting laid, the more attractive you're going to be with women. Again, I tell my viewers all the time, listen, living the red pill life is great and it's great to fuck women, but you guys have to understand that being good with women, having options with women should be merely a side effect of living the red pill life. Otherwise, if pussy is your only priority and you hit a dry slump, because it's going to happen, you start to question yourself, well, is the red pill really real? What am I really here for? So it's important for men to understand that, yes, most men find the red pill because of sexual frustration and or heartbreak. But the deeper they dive in, the more they find that it's more important to develop yourself. And listen, Ryan says this about married red pill. The other day on my show, he says, listen, they don't talk about women, they talk about yourself. The 12 levels of dread has little to do with the woman. It's all about your behavior, what you're doing, what you're thinking. With regards to what Rolo said about people who have red pill awareness and people who actually put it into practice, I call those guys 5%ers. I would go as far as to say, I don't know, because of the internet, anywhere between 75 and 80% of men walking around in the United States and the UK, they probably have red pill awareness. But 5% of those people actually put it into practice. It's one thing to read Rollo Tomasi and, listen to 21 Studios or watch Donovan Sharp. It's another thing to go out and actually do these things.
Yep.
And, there are different sects of the red pill, right? We have the PUAs, the MGTOWs, the MRAs. I'm not going to get into that. MGTOWs there are many levels to the MGTOWs as far as I know, but the ones that I absolutely cannot stand are the low level MGTOWs, the guys who do nothing but complain. Okay. Everything that low level MGTOWs is predicated on is complaining. There's no solution. Guys, listen, man, being good with women, it's not easy. Okay, being good with women. The funny thing is you have to untrain yourself to untrain yourself to do and be everything that society has told you not to be.
Well, look, if you buy my $5,000 boot camp, I'll make it easy for you.
There you go. But again, if you buy the $5,000 boot camp, just like Carlos said, you're paying a fisherman to fish for you. You need, I don't want to call it a life coach, but you need red pill mentors. You need to consume red pill content every day because we are only human. Listen, man, I'm in a long-term relationship myself. You don't think I fail the occasional shit test? You don't think I put my foot in my mouth? God damn it, I shouldn't have said that. I shouldn't have done this. This is how it happens. This is why you listen to guys like Rollo and Anthony. Sometimes I go back and watch episodes myself and say, God damn, I need to practice a little bit more what I preach. A man's natural instinct is to take care of women, but it would seem that the better we treat them, the worse they treat us. That's what makes the red pill so hard to digest. Everybody swallows the red pill when they get it. Digesting it, that's a whole nother ball game. Just a couple more quick things. I remember somebody was talking about not needing the red pill, right? Like they find the PUA sites, they become good with women, etc. Then they say, this red pill stuff.
I was bringing that up. A lot of pickup artists are like that. They'll find the red pill and be like, yeah, you don't need this shit. Just do it. Mark Manson, just buy models and you'll be fine.
Yeah, that's exactly right. But again, when the pussy dries up, I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're Paul fucking Janka. I don't care if you're Donovan fucking Sharp. You're going to hit a dry spell at some point. And if you haven't cultivated other areas of your life, you're going to fall into depression. I know this because I had a stage like that. When I first started being able to fuck pretty girls, I was like, oh my God, this is great. This is never going to end. Dude, I had a 2-month stretch where I didn't get laid. And I was like, what the fuck am I doing? And this and that and the other. And then, of course, I worked my way out of that. PUAs not needing the red pill is akin to truly crazy people thinking they don't need the pills. If you have been diagnosed with listen, if you've been diagnosed with bipolar or mild schizoaffective disorder, they put you on Zyprexa, Seroquel, or Abilify. You take it for 2 months, you're like, oh my God, I don't need this stuff anymore. Well, as soon as you stop taking the pills, you're absolutely fucking crazy.
Hang on, so, Donovan, I have to award you with the best analogy of the weekend. Carl, do you support this nomination? You're Mr. Analogy here. I haven't heard anything that good in a couple of days, at least.
Yeah, that was the solid one.
Well, crazy people don't know they're crazy, and the drugs are so great they honestly don't think that they need them. So if you take the mystery approach or the PUA approach and you start fucking all these beautiful women, oh my God, this is great. Every time I go out with this guy, I'm going to get laid. But then when you hit that dry slump, you go back to that depressive state. One more thing. The red pill is now getting mixed in with the alt-right. Okay, the alt-right, and I remember I just recently watched the series American Horror Story. Excellent series, you guys. I don't watch a lot of TV, but the last American Horror Story cult was about this radical guy who wanted to start a cult. He was a Trump supporter, this, and that, and the other. On this guy's computer in Rollo, back when I used to be on Twitter before I got banned on International Women's Day, no doubt, I put up a picture of the main character, the main character of American Horror Story cult, who was this cult member and no, fuck Hillary and Donald Trump is God. He had the red pill Reddit on his computer. This guy was an alt-right guy. So now if you're red pill, you are automatically thought of as alt-right. Do I look or sound or act like somebody who's alt-right? No. So we have to be very careful. And I understand that the red pill is a brand now, but we have to be very careful in terms of how that's packaged to the masses, because there are a lot of people who are aware of the red pill community, but they don't know what the fuck we stand for because the media is putting out all sorts of messages.
Yeah, I think, okay. Ryan, you want to hop in on this?
Yeah, I'll take it back a little bit here. Like, you guys have very good points. They're fairly academic. I'm just a simple guy from a fucking ranch. So the way I describe it is when I used to work at Fleet School, Naval Fleet School, and I was a first generation teacher, no idea what I'm doing. I had a 6-month course, whatever. That's the pickup stuff. But every time we were having problems with our class, we had a bullpen of about 20 or 30 other instructors. And hey, I just had this with my students. How do you fix that? And everybody just swaps notes. And then we all became very good instructors. We all got on the same page. Our students were kept in line. And that's all that it is. Like, you can make it about, I don't know why people think that it's like a white, like Donovan and I. Do you really think we're in for like, hey, a white ethno state in the States? I'm not even American, for fuck's sakes. But yeah, you swap notes, you talk with other guys, you learn from them. And that's all it is. It's not, I mean, there's evolutionary psychology because it works, but it's because there's no more gentlemen's clubs. There's no more men's clubs. There's not even fucking Boy Scouts now. So of course we're going to be on the internet jerking off with our internet friends because, there's no other places. I think Rollo and I had a little talk about that. Where
I mean, look at the convention. Like, I've had to build that probably in part because those kind of clubs don't exist anymore, or groups.
No. Yeah, that's all this is. It's not fucking magic. It's not superpowers. It's just guys talking to other guys. And every guy has part of the pieces. He doesn't have the whole thing. So I'll have, like, let's say, being generous, I got 90% of my game down. There's a 10% I don't know. Say Rollo overlaps with that 10%. So we start swapping some notes between each other. We teach each other this. We teach each other that. All of a sudden, we're both at 102%. Fucking awesome. And that's all we have to worry about. As far as my red pilling, it was, and back to Donovan's thing where he was talking about the MGTOWs and that. We always call them MGTOW second wave, kind of like a tip of the hat towards feminism. They aren't the I got burned by a woman and I'm out. They are the you can't fire me, I quit types.
Oh yeah.
I love it when MGTOWs and just the low level guys, they say, they like to say things like, oh, we don't go after women because they're not worth the time. Nah, man, that's bullshit. That again is just like you said, you can't fire me because I quit. So what these low level MGTOWs would have you believe is that they could get pussy if they wanted to, but they don't feel like it, so they don't. Get the fuck out of here with that.
Yeah, that's exactly. Bullshit every time.
I want to separate them from good guys like Terrence Popp.
Absolutely.
Yeah, when you read his book, you see what his wife did to him during the divorce. I'd turn down pussy for 7 years too. She fucking murdered his dog. Dude, if a woman murdered my dog, I am fucking going to jail. Like, I don't give a fuck.
Yes.
Yeah, I know the feeling. Hey, Rollo, let's get. Do you have something you want to say?
Yeah, I just wanted to back up here a little bit too, and I'll just hit on this last topic here is, and I've said this before. I really believe that the red pill as a theory, as a praxeology, as an aggregate of men's experiences, it needs to be open source. It needs to be everybody contributes to it, and it needs to be decentralized. I'm happy that a lot of people see me as, you know, a godfather of the manosphere. I'm one of the 3 R's. That I'm glad. Thank you. It's humbling, and you know, at least it means that my message is getting out there. But honestly, I see the red pill as open source, and I think every guy, even the worst MGTOW who, you know, wants to give up on life, it can still have something to contribute, you know. And I think that we do ourselves a disservice when we discriminate, and that's one of the reasons why I really hate the idea that the alt-right is trying to co-brand the red pill with their ideology, because, you know, anybody who knows me, you know, I have a very large, you know, Black following for the rational male, and I have a really multicultural, multi-ethnic readership for what I do, and I'm glad for that, because I want
religious too. You have Christians, Jews, all kinds of people.
Yeah, and that just shows you the breadth of what the red pill can really be. But when we co-brand it with an ideology, that's when it becomes part of that. And just like what Ryan was saying is, like, if we co-brand it with a particular political set, or we co-brand it with a religion, then it becomes just a part of that ideology, rather than, you know, be separated away from you know, from what it should be, which is to be as rationalist and as objectivist as it can possibly be. That's why I don't like when people say, oh, it's, you know, red pill is an ideology, it's not a praxeology. I'm like, bullshit. It is a praxeology first, and then what you do with that information, you can apply that to your ideology. You can completely refute it and, you know, tell me why it's false. And then why your, you know, opinion is different. But it's like debating. I call red pill praxeology a loose science, and I say it's loose because none of us are scientists. You know, I've got a bachelor's in behavioral psychology. Okay, that doesn't make me a doctor. That doesn't make me that doesn't put me on the same level as, say, somebody like Jordan Peterson. But I do think I have something to contribute to that. So that was one thing. The other thing that you guys were also getting back to was internalizing game and internalizing the red pill awareness. Just like what Donovan was saying, you know, maybe there's 5 to 10% of guys who are applying the red pill in their lives. They know it, but they don't get out there and they don't do anything. And I have gotten into it with some of my own commenters. I've got guys who will come on there and say, looks are everything, and you should just work out and build yourself up and be as attractive as you physically as much as you possibly can, and that'll solve all your problems.
That's bullshit.
And then I've got pickup artists who say exactly what you just said. That's bullshit. It's game. Let me show you how game, and it's all about game. It's nothing but game. Yeah. And I'm like, okay, that's bullshit too, because obviously, looking good, it's not a disadvantage. It's not a disadvantage in game to be good looking. Okay. So right there, and it's digging into these, I've been having these damn debates forever now. And so you got those guys, and then you got guys who are just, all about theory, and they don't want to, maybe they approach a girl once or twice, but they're the ones who are the critics of pickup artistry, saying it's just a numbers game. It's not just a numbers game. It is a skill game, and it is learning and calibrating from your mistakes as well as your successes. And it's internalizing that and making it a part of who you are. Because guys, go ahead. Well, I was going to say, everybody always asks me, says, well, I don't want to get married because I don't want to have to game my wife all the time. When does it end? When can I stop, with the burden of performance? When can I, catch a break? Right. And I'm like, that the shit doesn't end. You're a man. You have the burden of performance. You can call it the challenge of performance. You can turn it into a positive for yourself, but you still have that burden of performance. And they think that the reason that comes up as a thought to them is because they have not internalized the red pill awareness as part of who they are. They have not internalized it as, their reflexive response. Just like you were saying a minute ago, Donovan, about how like you like if I fail a shit test, it's not like I go through my head, or if I know I'm getting a shit test, I don't go, well, I'm getting a shit test now, and I have A, B, and C options to respond to this. And it's like this process, this subroutine I have running in my head. That's just who I am now. I know, I recognize it, and I respond to it as a red pill aware guy would respond to it, because it's who I have become now.
And therefore, you don't feel like an anxiety about it. It's just you've internalized it. Yeah. Donovan, real quick.
Yeah, real quick. Just to piggyback off of what Rollo was talking about game detractors talking about it's a numbers game. I totally agree. It's not just a numbers game. And I liken this to poker players. If you guys watch poker on TV, the World Series of Poker, it's the same 6 dudes at the final table all the time. The game is played the same way by millions of people, but these guys manage to, I guess, in essence, bullshit their way to the final table. Yes, listen, you can't strike out if you don't swing the bat. Like, we understand that. But by the same token, there is a level of skill involved. And not to get all cliche-ish here, but dude, 90% of game is just showing up. Right. 90% of game is just walking up and introducing yourself to girls you think are attractive. This is where most men fall off the this is where most men fall off as far as red pill game. So guys who say, well, pick up is bullshit. Yeah, you approach 2 girls and they blew you out. Like that. Listen, that's the game, man. Like, this is how it goes.
Right. Well,
it's hard to shoot yourself in the foot if you don't load the gun.
That's right. That's exactly right.
Let me jump in here real quick. Whenever I get that from somebody who's a critic of game or pickup artistry, they just say it's a numbers game. So if you go out and you approach 100 women and and then hopefully something bites. You throw enough spaghetti against the wall, something sticks.
Something's gonna stick.
And what I tell guys is that it's not a numbers game. It's a persistence game. It's a continuity game. Okay. So what I tell them, I says, how many guys? Well, if you went out and you made one approach every weekend for a year, that is 52 approaches you have made in 1 year. Now that's persistence. Okay. And 52 approaches is probably more approaches than the average guy living today does in his lifetime.
Right.
Yep.
So if you're persistent about it and you learn from those mistakes and something sticks and something doesn't, it's about being persistent. It's not about, a machine gun effect of just approach. And I know that there are some pickup artists who say that you just got to keep going. You got to keep going, and you go out there and be a machine. You don't learn anything from that. There's 2 kinds of learning. There's a kind of learning where you internalize it and it becomes a part of who you are. And then there's rote memorization. And a lot of what I see guys who are the biggest critics of pickup artistry are not a critic of pickup artistry. They're a critic of rote memorization. It's an act. It's not who they are. It's the script that they're supposed to be reading from at a particular time. Yeah. And it's like what Carlos was saying. If you teach a man, or if you buy a man a whore, you get him laid for a night. But if you teach a man game, you get him laid for a lifetime.
There you go.
Carl, you're up, buddy.
Yeah, I wanted to go back to what Rollo was saying, that ideas can actually be poisoned and ideas can be turned toxic. If you look at our current situation, just saying men and women are biologically different and therefore they behave differently and they act differently in a certain context is politically incorrect. Because some guys in Germany back in the 20s, 30s, and 40s took the whole biological determinism thing way too far. So we got the pendulum swung to the blank slate where, there's no biological differences between anyone. And the only differences is what we're raised, what culture, what parents we have, and so on. The idea that we're biologically different was poisoned, and just to handle that in public has become toxic. If we mix up the red pill with all the other aspects, religions, politics, economics, anything else, you eliminate some of the potential market for it, because the market is everyone. Everyone would be better off if they internalized red pill theory. But you're not going to get everyone if the theory is seen as excluding someone by default. if it's seen as excluding black people or Jews or whatever, they're not going to go in and read and give it a chance because they know, oh, they don't like me to begin with. I'm not going to listen to those bastards.
Ryan, you're up.
Yeah, bitches talk. As far as people talking shit about Red Pill, I could give two shits what they talk about. At the end of the day, and we can sit here and talk about how great it is till we're blue in the face. Somebody walks up, like at the convention when Rollo was there. The guys walked up, they met him, they saw his wife. All he needed to say. Successful guy, part of a band, hot wife, fucking successful life, raised kids. There is no fucking way the basement dweller with the biggest rhetoric in the world is going to top that. At the end of the day, if somebody wants to talk shit about, and especially lies, like put up or shut up. If you want to tell me how pickup is great, Red Pill is bad, all right, show me your life. And I better not see some dumb shit in there, which you always do.
You always do.
Every
That's
time.
right. I was just going to say that. You're always going to see it. Rollo is saying... Well, Rollo's made a really good point that a lot of... There's no need to say names, but a lot of top pickup artists, their lives are smoking wrecks. Like an absolute fucking shit show. Like from top to bottom. And like... in many different arenas of life, not just with women. It'll usually then kind of broaden out.
Well, again, this goes to what I was talking about earlier. Yes, a welcome side effect to living the red pill life is you have more options with women. But when you make the acquisition of pussy your sole purpose for survival, yeah, your life is going to be a fucking train wreck. It's going to be a goddamn dumpster fire every time.
Yeah, one of the things that I use as an example here, and I don't think it's any secret really, because if you've read the book The Game, which came out in what 2005,
2005.
Well, Strauss, yeah. Even back then, as far back as then, Mystery was suicidal. He was suicidal because he could not make his game fulfill his blue pill idealism and his blue pill fantasies. I've got a post and a chapter in preventive medicine that's called A New Hope, and I constantly get these guys telling me, "Oh, I'm nihilistic. I don't see any point in being red pill has ruined my impression of women, and I'm suicidal." And I tell these guys, I say, you know what you're trying to do is you're trying to achieve blue pill ideals with red pill awareness. I said, you're never going to do that because those blue pill goals and that blue pill hope and all that shit that you learned when you were 5 fucking years old from Disney and everything else isn't possible because it never was possible. It was only possible in that fantasy land. It was only possible if the blue pill was the right way of thinking. And it's not. We already know that. We break away from that and you're cut away from all that old idealism. But what these guys want to do is they want to cling back to that. They want to say, well, I know how to pick up chicks. And in fact, I wrote a post called Children with Dynamite, or was it Dream Girls and Children with Dynamite? And I quoted Ross Jeffries in that. I said, you know what? Giving guys this information, this game to go out there and get any chick they want has the potential to blow up in their face. It's like giving, dynamite to children. And sure enough, I mean, that's what you see in a lot of the old RSD guys. You see certainly with Mystery, again, I don't want to pick on him, but the guy has been, on suicide watch for a very long time now. And most of the reason is because he knows the game and he knows how to get laid and he knows how to get women, but he doesn't know what to do with them. He doesn't know that the goals that he has, that he wants to apply all this red pill knowledge to, are false, and they're not possible.
Can we just pause on that for a second? Because I agree with you. Mystery knows how to get women, but he doesn't know what to do with them.
Right. He doesn't know how to live with them. Yeah. Because he's never killed that blue pill beta part of himself. And the same thing, really, if you go and you look at some of these guys and we're going to get into the purple pill side of things here in a bit, but if you look at guys like Tucker Max, or if you look at a guy like Neil Strauss, he's basically, I don't even want to call him purple pill. The guy has gone fully blue pill and has, from what I know, after reading what he got into in the game and reading him now, it's like reading two different people. And it's like, you should know better than this. And he does know better than this. He's just chosen to put himself into denial because he can profit from that denial. So if you look at those guys, who they learn red pill. Like when I was first talking to guys on SoSwap way back in the day. The reason I wrote Children with Dynamite is because these guys would come up to me and say, okay, teach me how to get chicks. Teach me how to do cocky funny. Teach me how to do peacocking. Teach me how to do amuse mastery. Teach me how, tell me what I need to know. Tell me why it works. Okay, so that's fine. But teach me all that stuff. And then when you do, and they start getting laid, they go, okay, I got it from here, man. Thanks a lot. I'm out. And what they're doing is they're applying game without understanding red pill, and there's a separation between the two, and I think that's a very, very dangerous separation. Just to have red pill awareness is not enough, and just to have game is not enough. You have to bring the two of them together to live a better, more internalizing both sides of this to have a better life. Because once you get past the I'm getting laid, what then? Where do you go? People always say, what's next? What's after the red pill, right?
Carl, did you want to hop in? It's been a couple minutes here.
Yeah. Well, in the end, a woman fucks a man for two reasons: as a means to an end or an end in itself. She wants to get fucked, or she wants to get something else. Now, the first case is a non-zero-sum game. Both people gain because it's a transaction of I want to get laid with you, you want to get laid with me, let's fuck and get it over with. In the second case, it's I will do this in order to get that. Now, the red pill teaches you that if I build myself into the right type of person, then you get non-zero-sum games. Like Donovan was saying, if you live a red pill lifestyle, then women naturally gravitate towards you because you both have a mutually desired outcome. What a purple pill dating coach does is he tells you, I will teach you how to become a better negotiator. You just haven't been negotiating well enough. Here is what you need to negotiate on in order to get the outcome you desire. And the end result is you end up negotiating attraction, but you think it's real attraction. And in the end, that will always backfire on you. So they're selling you a strategy that they say will get you the outcome you desire, but it's up to you to implement it. Then if you fail to get the outcome you desire, they accept no culpability for it, and they blame you for not implementing it correctly. You didn't negotiate well enough.
It's like selling the rocket to the coyote, and then when it blows up in his face, you're like, oh, you didn't use it right. And like it was going to blow up the whole time.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Ryan, did you want to hop in? Or did Donovan have something to say?
It ties into the Children with Dynamite. It's a concept, and it came from Glover's work, actually. It's called a covert contract. And it's exactly the same thing. The guy thinks in his head, if I learn this game, then she will turn into mommy wife. But you don't actually tell her that. You just expect her to get with the program. It's probably the biggest psychological hang-up that I ever see on the married red pill. So, and it has to do with congruence, which just means acting in the way that aligns with what you're trying to do. So I'll use an example here. One of our guys, for the last 7 months, he's wanted to have his wife with him not had sex like once a year, something insane amount like that.
Shit.
Yeah, just let that sink in for a minute. You're paying full price for once a year sex.
Oh my God.
So he's tried all these things, but he's doing, like, I don't know if you've, well, I'm sure you have, but when you were young and you didn't know how to really like finger a girl or go down on her and all that stuff, you're always like, hey, is this okay?
Yeah.
Is this okay? And she's like, shut the fuck up. Now I'm out of the mood. If he was doing that for like 9 months, she's trying something new. Is this alpha? Is this okay? Will you fuck me good now? Like, dude, slow the fuck down. If you want to get sex more,
that's all the exact opposite of what she wants to hear anyway. Like,
and it's a purple pill, Children with Dynamite thing. You think that if you do this, then you're going to get what you want. But you're not telling her this deal, and she's not going to go for it anyway. They don't want to make it a deal. They need to have that plausible deniability. Yeah. So what you do, on the other hand, is if his goal is just to get laid, the easiest thing to do is learn game, give your wife first crack at the bat, and if she doesn't want it, go out and find somebody else. Either divorce or just find a side piece, whatever you want to do. But then you find out that's not what he wants. He doesn't want to get laid. He wants her to desire him. So you find out that it's that validation thing. And that's what I'm talking about with congruence. So if you turns out you want validation, you're going to act like this thirsty purple pill Children with Dynamite because you just want mommy wife to love you. Instead, you got to learn what you actually want is to become your own judge. So the big problem with this is not that people are lying to you. It's that people are lying to themselves. And it's fucking retarded. And it really, I don't like it when I see those pickup artist coaches talking about the 10 reasons I love women and how you can be a nice guy, like that Sasha PUA thing. It's always on the YouTube, but like, dude, like if you want to fuck yourself over, that's fine. Stop trying to sell another guy your fucking poison though. And sure as fuck, don't talk shit about me while you do it. But yeah, just act in congruence with what you want.
Donovan, you had a viewer you wanted to call out on the YouTube
Yeah,
channel.
yeah. Check this out. This guy, the Purple Pill. Looks like we've got an ultimate red pillar in our midst, gentlemen. I'm going to read a couple. Yeah, believe it or not, there are some naysayers out here. The Purple Pill says, quote, I think it's projection to say women like us based on our charm. It's also very blue pill. Women are cold and calculating, especially in the club and the bar scene. Dude. And this is funny. I love it when people come in here and they think they know more than we do, right? Like they give us all of these theories. Dude, you think it's projection to say women like us based on our charm? Guess what? No, it's not. We don't want a woman who is charming in the way they want us charming. All right. Like let's not try to outsmart the room here. He also said something. Yeah. He also said here, I studied game for 2 years. It did nothing for my results. You are watching the wrong dudes, my friend. Yeah. That's just all there is to it.
Well, wait a second. Him studying game for 2 years means he never went.
He never went out and did anything.
He never did shit.
Right. Nothing. Like, dude, like I took a class in psychology. It never did shit for me. That's because I didn't get out there in the workplace. You can you can study and read and all this, just like you guys are talking about. There are groups of guys out there who do nothing but talk shit, theories and this and that and the other, and they tell you what doesn't work, right? The reason, and not to shameless plug here, the reason why my show is called The Sharp Reality is that 95% of the stories that I tell are based on anecdotal evidence. I don't talk about, well, Ryan Stone said XYZ and wrote, no, this is what happened. I tried this on XYZ girl and she blew me out. XYZ girl cheated on me because I did XYZ. This guy, again, there was one more thing I wanted to point out.
He did say he practiced also.
Oh, he practiced. Oh, he went out to Here he comes.
Story's changing.
Yeah. So basically, yeah, this guy is one of these. I call these guys internet gangsters, right? Like, no, seriously, like he's all big and bad and confrontational within the context of chatting, but you can't come on here in this forum and debate in real time. Like you can't do that. And I'm gonna go ahead and take my walk to first base. I got Carlos in the on deck circle. You're up.
Oh yeah, Carl, Judd, pile on.
No, I just wanted to comment because I mean, if someone's saying women are cold and calculating, you're giving them way too much credit. That's like saying a drug dealer on the corner is a great financier.
Right?
No, he's not. He's got an enforcer waiting in the wings to take you out when you leave the room. Women are, well, cunning is a better word because they have this built-in Machiavellian type deal because they like to communicate covertly. They tend to have plausible deniability. Anything the 48 laws of power tells you to do, women tend to do automatically.
Well,
that's
Carl, I have a question.
You fucking...
You saw that next one, did you?
Yeah, that was brilliant.
I don't want to cut Carl.
My bad. Go ahead.
Guys, hang on. So, Carl, would you say that women, unlike men, lack significantly the ability to exert physical force into the world? So they have to figure out another way to exert force to survive and replicate. Is that along the lines of what you're getting at?
Yeah, it's kind of like the tiny dude in the schoolyard. He has to make friends with the bigger guys because he's going to talk shit, but he needs someone else to make sure he doesn't get his ass kicked.
Exactly.
And women are similar in that, take feminism, for instance. If men decided tomorrow that, oh, you know what, we're done with feminism, we want it gone, it would be gone because without the police force and the military and politicians to enact force on behalf of the ideology, it would lose all power. Freud said it very clearly, and I've probably said this on here before, you can make someone do what you want two ways. You can bribe them or you can force them to. So either you tell, okay, if you do the dishes, I'll fuck you, or you tell them, if you don't do the dishes, I'll beat the shit out of you. Of course, there are nuances. It's not a strict dichotomy, and I don't think anyone lives their life purely based on that, but those are the two only approaches, soft power or hard power.
Right.
Rollo?
I was going to say is that just to since we're talking about this guy here,
hashtag
whenever a guy and usually it's women use the word projection, you're projecting. That is the easiest fucking cop out anybody can ever have. If you disagree with somebody, they're just projecting because there's something else that's going on with them. And that is intellectual laziness is what that is. It's instead of getting it, instead of really understanding, what that other person's point of view is, it's just a dismissal is what it is. Oh, you're projecting. No, well, okay, great, fine. End of discussion. No, fuck you. Listen to me. Listen to what I'm talking about. And I'll tell you what. The second thing is I've seen guys exactly like this go out and get laid. I've seen these guys. Oh, it's not working for me. Oh, I don't know. I'm doomed. I'm gonna go MGTOW. I'm going monk mode. Okay, fine. If that's what you need to do, great. But don't go and narrow it down to just, well, you just got to be good looking. You just got to be hot. Yeah, you do. Looks count. Okay. But game counts too. And even affluence counts to a small degree, I would say. But knowing game and understanding intersexual dynamics, there's still it's good to know. Even if you say, you know what, I'm going to be a celibate monk, it's still good to know red pill awareness and have that, because you still have to deal with women. I tell MGTOWs this all the time. I say, you know what, there's no exiting the game. Even if you're not playing the game, you still have to deal with your mom. You still have to deal with your sister. You still have to deal with your aunt or these women at work or whatever. Your daughter. You're not exiting the game. You still need to know how this works. Now, unless you want to go live in a shack somewhere like, the Unabomber, I don't see that.
Well, Rollo, I was just going to say that based on what I've seen you tweet just a few months ago, maybe like 2017 at some point, you can never exit the consequences and interaction of hypergamy and women's sexual strategy, even if you are fucking royalty. Look at the prince in England who got married. Yes. Like this guy, full beta. So, on one hand, even royalty doesn't cure beta. At the same time, regardless of whether he was beta or alpha or whatever, red pill aware, he still can't escape the consequences and dangers and maybe benefits of hypergamy.
Well, what this guy was just saying is that, they get, and I understand this because this is a common frustration for guys, particularly when they've just unplugged from the blue pill and they're becoming red pill aware and they're realizing what their role in all of this is. They're like, oh my God, I don't look like Tom Brady. I don't look like, Chris Hemsworth. I'm never going to get laid. Right. And they don't see that there's more to it than just good looks. I mean, looks are important. Go lift. I'm not telling you not to. I'm saying go lift, be the best you could possibly be, but don't shoot yourself in the foot. Like I was talking to Pat Campbell over, like, I think it was Thursday, and we were talking about some of the iron rules of Tomasi. And one of those is never convince a woman, never help a woman understand why it is that she won't fuck you. Let her figure that out for herself. But if you're doing that, then you're basically disqualifying yourself from the game. You're disqualifying yourself from ever having any success to begin with. And like I've seen these guys do this, and they just get nihilistic about it. And there's definitely a nihilistic part of unplugging, because once again, you're pulling yourself out of that blue pill idealism. And these guys who now have this red pill awareness, they get suicidal, they get nihilistic, or they get angry. And sometimes, I would say for most of the time, that anger is directed at themselves. But that nihilism is usually a sense of hopelessness for themselves. But that hope, the reason that they're hopeless is because the hope they had from the blue pill is gone now. And so here they are left alone in a red pill reality. And they've got to, first of all, they got to figure it out. And then second of all, how are they going to thrive in this, and what kind of new goals are they going to create for themselves? And a lot of guys never push past looking at that abyss. And that sounds like what this guy is doing right here. Is he's just not understanding that there's more to it than just that. There's more to, first of all, there's more to it than just getting laid. But if the guy is out to just get laid, it's not that the red pill's not going to work for him. It's just that he hasn't figured out what is going to work just for him with that knowledge. And then within a red pill context.
I'll tell you what else he was doing. He was trying to get, he basically hijacked the chat, and
not anymore.
He's got it right. I was going to say he's got his own channel. He's in here. He said the most. Get the fuck out of here, man. All this guy was talking about was what doesn't work, dude. That's not what this is. That's only part of what this is about. If you want to be a low level MGTOW, go do that. Don't come in here under the auspices of purple pill. Get out of here, man.
No, I know who that was. That was Steve Hoka, and he's got his.
That's
own,
what I thought, dude. That's what I thought. That's who I thought it was. Steve Hoka, this motherfucker was on my. I'd never even heard of the guy before until Rollo was on. And this guy's like, I want to debate Rollo Diamante. He completely did like his whole side video while I was on live with him. I'm like, dude, who the fuck is this? Like a fucking mosquito on my ass. Get out of here.
Well, and then this is one of these guys, like I said, who never really cuts himself away from. He never fully realizes what the red pill could mean to him. And then second of all, he's still stuck in that blue pill ideology. Oh, it's not going to work for me, you know. And these are the dudes. And I'm going to throw this out there. But have any of you guys ever heard of the True Forced Loneliness guys? You want to talk about another? It's True Forced TFL. It's been around for a while, but if there is a stage below, like the most desperate, Omega guys banding together is basically what it is. And
Magic the Gathering tournaments.
Yeah. Well, and I actually got into it with this guy on the chat from that, you know, after Donovan had told me this guy was on our chat, because I didn't even realize it was there. And then I realized that there's just you don't talk to guys like that. You don't convince them of anything because they're happy in their misery.
Listen, that's my weakness, man. Like I get it, and this is why I'm banned off Twitter now, because I can't help but fucking go in and nuke these people, and then I get God.
I am going to disagree with you though, Rollo. I don't think it's nihilism. Technically, red pilling is nihilism, where you kill the old god to make a new one. I'm going to call it narcissism. It's that they have a script in their head that nothing I do and the world is against me, and it doesn't matter if it's a good script or a bad script. It's just that's what they're latching onto, and it's fucking horrible.
Well, think of it as the perfect
nihilism would be awesome.
Gentlemen, before we get into, I want to shift the conversation in a minute to purple pill profiteers and profiteering. But before we do that, I want to spend a good 10 minutes or 15 on questions from the audience. The first one I saw earlier in the chat was actually related to the Medusa speech I gave back in 2016 and the work of Rollo Tomasi, The Rational Male. The question was essentially, I think it's actually gone at this point. The chat gets deleted after a while. The question is, would I have married or even dated Medusa had I found the Rational Male before I met her? Medusa being a chick with a number of personality disorders, cluster B. The answer is I very much doubt I would have dated her, because I think one of the key elements to spotting predatory woman with a dangerous personality or cluster B personality disorder is red pill awareness, because cluster B disorders or any mental health issue can and will often exaggerate hypergamy and female behaviors. So red pill awareness is a very good, in my opinion, and I'd like to hear Rollo's take on this too, but red pill awareness is a very good way to avoid dangerous and toxic relationships, in addition to things like studying personality disorders, mental illness, things like that. So Rollo, did you have any comments on that too?
Well, I will say this, and this is nothing new between yourself and myself. When you asked me to go and be a speaker at the 21 convention, I turned you down initially because I felt that your whole outfit was very much purple pill, and this can sort of segue into the next topic, but I felt it was very, very purple pill. And then when I watched your video on Medusa, once I saw it, and once I did a little bit of research, and I watched some of her videos that you guys had done with her and Socrates or whoever.
The interviews,
yeah, those interviews, and I'm like, how the hell are these guys not seeing this? How is it? It's because I call a red pill lens. I think pretty much anybody who becomes red pill aware can't help but see the outside world, you know, their old world in that lens and see what's going on around them, whether it's with women or it's work or whatever.
Willful ignorance.
Yeah, willful ignorance. And then so I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, well, why are these guys not sick, you know, picking this out? Well, they don't want to. They want to have their theories validated. And if this hot girl who looks like a porn star is, you know, patting him on the back and saying, yes, good boy. You're right. 100%. And is giving you all of this positive, you know, feedback. What are you going to do? You don't have any incentive to really look at it in any other way. In fact, you'll defend it because a hot chick has just, you know, verified what you're saying, whether she's manipulating you or she's not. Now, I told Anthony back in the early days, I said, I would have picked this out in a heartbeat. I would have said, this chick is doing something. There's something wrong with this girl. In fact, I think a lot of the criticism that's leveled at Anthony is rightfully so, is he should have seen this. He should have seen it coming. Now, and I don't really hold men's, you know, mistakes to them once they recognize those mistakes and they make a U-turn from what they were doing. And they acknowledge that, and certainly Anthony has. But I didn't want to have anything to do with his outfit, because I'm like, if this chick can put one past you guys, can put one past your best speakers, and go up there and be a part of the show, I don't want to have anything to do with that. And this was a time when he had just broken up with her, and he was reading my book, and he was sort of coming into being truly red pill aware. And I was telling him, I said, look, I'll do your speaking spot, because I know Tanner Guzzi had done it. I said, well, I'll do it if I can get Tanner, and I can get Goldman, and I can get Christian McQueen, and I can get some of these other guys on there. Like, even Ryan was one of those guys. Yeah. And I said, we need to turn this into a real red pill convention, but I'm not going to do it if there's going to be purple. If it's going to be just about selling the next guy's dating coaching, or selling the next guy's programming. I really want a lot of people. And I'll say this for the record right now, because we're on a live podcast here, or live chat.
This is live?
Yes, this is live.
Fuck.
I'm gonna say this is that I don't do this for a fucking living. Okay, I work in the liquor industry. Okay, I go and I have a life outside of these four walls in here, and I write books because I'm passionate about it. And when I first wrote the first book and I put it out as a self-publishing, still a fiasco to this day, really. But when I was doing that, it was with the intent of collecting all of this knowledge that people were telling me that I needed to collect and codify and put it out there. Now I'm glad it's sort of become the red pill, Bible for now, because it ended up being the book that I wanted to read that I couldn't find anywhere else. And so I started writing it, and then, I kind of got into it. But you have to understand that I don't monetize my site. I've never monetized my site. People keep saying, you need to monetize your site. You're missing out on so much money. I'm like, no, I don't want to do that.
You need your own channel. You need your own channel.
Yeah, exactly. You need your own YouTube channel. You need your own Patreon. I don't need that. Before I even started all of this, I made quite a bit of money. I'm good with that. Right. I do this because I feel like there's a necessity for it.
And there's money in this anyway.
Yeah, really.
But you want to have money, sell makeup tutorials. Fuck that.
Well, and I tell guys this all the time. I says, I always push the printed version of the book, because I want guys to discuss it, and they want to have a chat about it. Or if somebody sees it and says, what's the rational male? I want them to have that in your face kind of exchange and engagement. And I make the least amount of royalties on my book, on the printed version of my book. But that's the one that I push the most, because I think that has the most interpersonal, intercommunication, value to it.
Well, on a more serious note, kind of dark, but it's very hard to ban a physical book unless you're going to burn it or kick it out of bookstores, which is a real possibility.
Was bragging about doing that to you last month there, Rollo?
No. What's funny is my books are only available through Amazon and then eBay secondhand if people want to buy them off of eBay. Sooner or later, I'm going to have a hardback version going through Barnes & Noble, so maybe you'll see it on a Barnes & Noble bookshelf, assuming they don't go bankrupt before that happens.
Well, until an employee cracks it open and starts reading it.
Right, exactly. Well, it's the same thing that happened with Milo's book. They didn't want to keep it on the shelves. They just wanted to say, you can order it special order and we'll get it for you, which you could just do from Amazon anyway. But anyway, I was just going to say is that as far as the purple pill goes, and as far as Medusa goes, yeah, I mean, I could see that. And I thought, basically, if he's not seeing it and the rest of these guys aren't seeing it, it's like this big, manipulative swindle. Is this really something that I wanted to be a part of? And so I think I told you this. I said that right there should show you the quality of the people that you have as your speakers. And I don't mean this is a cut on anybody in particular. I'm just saying that if she was able to put it past all these guys who are out there, what does that say about them? What does that say about the 9 years of the convention that you did before I came along, before we changed things up?
To your point, Rollo, I would say this. You've pointed out that the purple pill is very toxic and very dangerous. I would also say that the convention being so intensely purple pill was very fertile breeding ground for a cluster B and for a woman who was really dedicated to manipulation like that. So it was really like we set the stage, and then eventually she just came along. On a personal level, I did that, and then with the company, unfortunately.
Well, one thing that women like that will do, and women in general too. I mean, we were going to talk about trad tots one time, and I think Roosh probably picked up that ball and ran with it. But women will find ways to create niche sexual marketplaces. So if you have gamer girls or nerd girls or cosplay girls, all of that sprang up because those girls could not compete in a more general mainstream sexual marketplace. You're not going to see them at the clubs, but their clubs ended up being like Comic-Con. Okay.
Podcast with Bruce where they're bitching about TradCons.
Exactly. And it's like, first of all, why are you arguing with these children? And second of all, he doesn't understand yet that women will create their own niche marketplaces, and that's what Medusa did for you guys, and that's what I see happen in the traditional conservative arena right now. And guys, for the most part, eat it up because they're thirsty.
Yep. Carl, did you want to comment on cluster B disorders and the previous discussion we just had?
Yeah, I did, because actually we met the first time because I wrote a long series on various cluster B disorders and how they manifest in women. And when I first saw the video I think Rollo's referring to, my radar went off, and I have a very tuned radar because I've been on more crazy bitches than tramp stamps. But the thing that happens with it, imagine a guy who's never gotten laid before, and he goes on the Red Pill Reddit, he finds Rollo's books, or he buys one of Rush's books, and he goes out and he starts applying this, and here comes this chick who's hotter than any chick he's ever fucked before, and she's receptive to it. And this tells him, oh, what I've been doing is working, this is all me. But in reality, she just latches on to the fact that he's doing something, and this is not something he's used to. And she's reinforcing that behavior in him as a control mechanism. And that makes him double down on it because he thinks it's working, but in reality, she's running a long-term confidence scheme on him because that's all it is. It's a confidence game. He puts her on the pedestal. He views any feedback he gets from her as a validation of himself, which causes him to repeat the behavior towards her, and slowly she'll whittle it down until she has complete control over him.
Donovan, did you want to hop in on that too?
Forgot to unmute, buddy.
Forgot that. There we go. Got it. Just real quick, I was with regards to this whole Medusa situation. I don't know anything about it. I've got a consult at the top of the hour, but after that, I'm gonna definitely check that out. I think that there is tremendous value in telling your viewership about your failures. And I've had epic failures. I fell in love with a girl who, anyway, I have some epic failures. But I think that when people see that, because Rollo, you haven't always been good with women. Carlos, Anthony, right? I mean, listen, we didn't come out of the womb with all this red pill awareness and this red pill knowledge. A lot of lessons can be taught, true enough, but most of them have to be learned. And this is why men who read about the red pill, they teach themselves the red pill, but you don't learn it until you actually go out there. So I think there's a lot of value when it comes to knowing that, hey, we as men, we also have weaknesses too. But the red pill, I think, is in essence learning to mitigate those weaknesses, accentuating your strengths, having your strengths play to you. As far as I'm concerned, the purple pill is a compromise. The purple pill is for men who have red pill awareness, who are just too scared to go. They're just too scared to go red pill. They're scared to go all the way. They're worried about failure, maybe getting outed, coming out of the closet as red pill, as they like to call it. I think that, this is how it is. They don't want to be seen labeled as a misogynist. They know that women are fucked up. They know that marriage is fucked up. They know that relationships are fucked up, but they don't want to go all the way and go red pill. So some idiot created the purple pill as a compromise to the red pill. Listen, man, you are either red pill or you are not. You can call it purple pill, periwinkle pill. It doesn't matter what it is, man. This is binary. You are either, everybody's red pill aware, but you, as far as your congruity is concerned, you are either red pill or you are not. There is no compromise.
And she may think you're an asshole, but at least she's fucking thinking about it.
That's right. That's exactly right.
Yeah, that's true.
Rollo, you wanted to hop in?
Well, I was going to say is, this sort of opens up the purple pill discussion here. I have written quite a bit about purple pill guys, mostly from mostly from the aspect of guys, using this ideology as some sort of advancement of the red pill, as if they can learn red pill and then be nice guys. They can go and I know all this red pill stuff, but I still want to make my blue pill idealisms come true. So, and you should too. And so here's a life coaching opportunity for guys to go and learn to be the good kind of red pill. And I've written quite a bit about this, where it's like, once a guy becomes red pill, or once a woman really understands that the guy gets it, then she throws the morality on him. She says, you know all this stuff, you got us, you know this red pill stuff, it's true, we're not denying it. Now it's your responsibility to use it ethically. And I think that's one part of the whole purple pill side of things, is trying to say, well, you should use this ethically. Well, those ethics and that morality and everything that proceeds from that is all blue pill, and it is all entirely initiated and serves the feminine imperative.
Yeah, these are just mechanisms to shut down red pill awareness.
Right, exactly. And then, so the other thing I was going to say is that when it comes to purple pill, let's not even talk about the guys who are life coaches just yet. But what I see the purple pill as is, I see these guys who get cut away from the blue pill, and they learn about red pill, and they accept it for the larger degree, and they get to the point where they can't go all the way. Just like what Donovan was saying, they can't quite commit entirely over to it, because they're afraid that they're going to end up being permanent assholes, or they think they're going to be turn themselves into men who resent women so much, because they've all heard about this, of course, because red pill is all about hate, and it's all about anger and everything. It has nothing to do with that. It's truthful anger. I can tell you right now, if you think it's truthful anger, there's a lot more to it that you're not getting. So what I was going to say is that purple pill is basically these guys trying to capture that blue pill idealism with red pill awareness. And so they want to go back to that, and they never want to cross that abyss, like the abyss we were just talking about a little bit. And Ryan wants to call it narcissism. Okay, I'll accept that. I'll accept that as an answer. But I think a lot of guys end up becoming very nihilistic, and they don't see anything hopeful for themselves. And I keep telling them, I said, look, there's so much more hope on the side on red pill awareness than there is in keeping yourself deluded or sticking your head back in the sand and living in denial about that. And that's one of the reasons I have a real problem with purple pill guys, is because they find reasons to stick their heads back in the sand. They find reasons to go into denial. So like I said, the guys that I talk about, if I'm talking about Tucker Max is a great example of this. And you look at the stuff he wrote when he was single, and, I hope they serve beer in hell, and everybody followed him all through their college years and thought he was great. And then suddenly he goes and he realizes he can't make a living at this anymore. And he has to go on national TV and renounce himself as this player and this pickup artist and everything. And, I just didn't see the light. I'm sorry I was so manipulative of women. And I saw all this stuff I said. Never mind about that. Now I'm a relationship guru, and I'm going to tell you how to get into a healthy relationship. And what's happened is he's gotten married and had a kid in that time. And so his incentive is
his wife fat?
I don't know, man. I think she was kind of like a bodybuilder or something like that.
Even worse.
I have a post on my site called The Purple Pill, and I sort of did this comparison. And what it is it's, if you look at Tucker Max's first book, it's a picture of him and some random blonde chick on the cover with her name or with her face completely blanked out, and it says "your name here" on it. That was the cover of his first book. The cover of his most recent book, it shows himself, his little baby, kid, I don't know what it was, and his wife, and his face is the one that is blanked out, and it's called mating or mate or something like that. But that pretty much encapsulates the transition from going red pill to backsliding into to purple pill, but which is really blue pill if you think about it.
Now, here's a question open to Rollo first, and then the whole floor with anybody who wants to get into it. How does this compare, this kind of disingenuous transition for Tucker Max from just slaying pussy left and right to I see the light, now I'm going to be with this nice guy? It reminds me a lot, and how does it compare to women hitting the wall? The epiphany phase, hitting the wall, and all of a sudden, the party years are in the past. I've found myself. I'm gonna go like on a little Eat, Pray, Slut tour or whatever they're gonna do now. Like, is there a comparison there to be made?
I think so in a way. How a guy comes to that transition is really what's debatable. Does the guy coming to that transition from a position of red pill awareness, or is he doing it just because, you know, he knew a lot of game and he happened to knock up the wrong girl and he has a lot of money because he's a guru or he's a life coach or he's an RSD instructor or whatever, and now suddenly his tune has to change. It has to change because what he was selling before is no longer hot when the guy is married with a kid. And, you know, people always ask me that too. They say, well, you know, Rolly, you're married, you have a kid. I'm like, yeah, but you got to understand that I was red pill while I was married. You know, it's not like I got red pill and then I went, oh, I'm going to get married now. All of the stuff that everything I've written has been from after my, you know, rock star party years when I was, you know, 20 to 26, 27. And, you know, so I can sort of relate to that, but getting into a position, I think there's a lot of guys, a good example, and I hate to use this because I don't want to say anything bad about him right now, but like Roosh is a good example of this right now, because Roosh was very much red pill and he wrote lay guides left and right, and decided that at some point he didn't want to do that anymore, whether it was unprofitable for him or you know, maybe he was having a personal change in his life. I don't know. But it turns out that 2 years ago, he happened to get into what I think is his first serious long-term relationship. Okay. And so he gets into that. And what happens? His narrative changes. Now he's all about the political stuff. Now he's all about the spiritual stuff. Now he's all about, to a lesser extent, you know, he was, you know, hitting on evolution because he was reading a lot of religion at the time. So he had to be anti-revolution. He goes through this phase where he's, you know, touching on all these bases. And then now recently he's broken up with his girlfriend. I think he's probably about 6 months to a year afterwards. And now he's going back to being red pill. And that's what his show's about right now. He's helping guys. I'm glad for him. That's why I said I don't want to say anything bad about him, because he's finally sort of come back to the fold. You know, he's starting to help dudes from a red pill perspective, and, you know, and owning his rejection with this girl that he thought he was going to end up marrying. And so that is definitely, I have this post called The Script, and there's a script for guys who are these incorrigible bachelors, the Tucker Maxes of their time. And this is something that's been going on since Shakespeare's time. Okay. And so these guys, I'm going to be a bachelor for life and I'm never going to get married because this is the life for me, and yada, yada, yada. And then suddenly they meet the one, they meet the girl that can tame them. It's like the Beauty and the Beast thing, you know, it's like the guy's a horrible beast until this one special snowflake comes along and she turns him around, and he's never known love before until he has gotten in touch with her, and she solves all of his problems, and she, you know, tames the savage beast. And now he goes from being red pill, you know, player to being a guy who wants to tell everybody how they ought to be living their lives, how they should have been doing this all along. Right. Instead of understanding that as soon as that girl, that's why I say guys get really pissed off at me for this, but I always say that there's no such thing as a quality woman. There's only women. Okay. There are good women and there are bad women. Yes. Okay. But every dude that you know who has gotten in this horrible, horrible divorce, at some time, that dude said, yeah, she's a quality woman, I want to marry her. Yep. Right. So, but it's not, women have natures. Women have a biological set of mental firmware that they're going to be women. So what this other guy, I think it was Steve Hoko, was just saying, was like, oh, they're calculating and they know all this. I'm like, yeah, but they don't know they're calculating. Okay, they don't know. This is not something that they, you know, think of it.
Self-awareness.
It's their internalized reflexive understanding, because that is what has been a part of the human race for 100,000 years. Hypergamy has been a part.
Got to pause you. Donovan's got to hop off in a minute. Donovan,
go ahead.
You want to get in point?
Yeah, just what Rollo was talking about, like, women aren't smart, right? We hear this all the time. Women are better liars than men. No, they're not. The reason why the lies of women are more effective than the lies of men is because we want to fuck women more than they want to fuck us, right? When we want to fuck women, we believe anything, or we pretend to believe anything. This is why women see through the bullshit. No, they see through the bullshit because they don't want to fuck you right now. Men are blinded by, listen, I'm myself included, man. Like, I get blinded by this stuff all the time. So
booty blinded.
Yeah, this is how it works, man. Women aren't smart. They're just women. This is how they are. A woman is only as good as the man she's with. Just like Rollo just said, it's not, I found a good woman. You know, you found a canvas that's probably a little bit more willing than another. Women come from all walks of life, and a woman's upbringing has a lot to do with whether or not she's ready to be a quality woman or not. There are many women out there who will never ever be quality women, but if a woman is a quality woman, it's not on her own. Listen, man, men are made, women are born. This is how this works. And you guys have to understand this. For a man to be attractive to women, we have to be proactive. We have to lift weights, get our financial house in order. We have to learn what makes women tick. We have to have backbone. We have to make ourselves into men. All a woman has to do to be considered a quality woman is to refrain from certain activities. And there are only 2 activities they have to refrain from. Don't eat, don't be a slut. That's it. If you stop eating and stop taking random dicks, you are automatically a quality woman. This is the masculine burden, and I'm glad that we have this burden. But the final thing that I want to say here is, and by the way, the Purple Pill subreddit it welcomes men and women. It invites men and women, so already they're already
fucking cancer. Why did you even bring that up? With fucking garbage fire. Holy fuck.
Listen, man, this is how it is. This is how it is. But in closing here, before I hop off here, when men decide to play it straight, Rollo talks about the epiphany phase where a woman decides, holy shit, I'm about to hit the wall, or I've hit the wall, time to get serious. Women decide to get serious about relationships because they need to. Time is running out. When men decide to play it straight is because we want to. The reason we renounce the player lifestyle is because we're tired of the same rinse and repeat, nego, you got a tattoo, you're fat, blah, 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 blah. We're tired of fucking broads. Listen, no matter what we talk about here in the Red Pill, we all want something. We all want a woman we have a deeper connection with other than just sex. So on that note, guys, I'm going to go ahead and hop off. Once again, guys, it was great being with you guys. My thanks to the audience. Thanks, AJ, for bringing me on, man. Appreciate
Donovan,
it.
thanks for hopping on, man. Appreciate it.
All right, buddy. Take care.
Always fun to chat with you. Take care.
So speaking of the Purple Pill, guys, let's better define it before continuing on. Some of the way I think people see it is they see it as a synthesis or combination of competing ideas or conflicting ideas, being red pill ideas and blue pill ideas. Is that accurate, or is it more accurate to say that it's more like bipolar disorder, like a constant switching between 2 ideas, like oil and water that just don't mix?
Christopher Hitchens has a great book on this, Life of a Contrarian. And I can't remember, he puts it all wordy the way he does, but you talk about a light bulb. And they're like, oh, you don't want to be too hot. Like, don't be too angry. Don't be too pissed off. Well, that's the problem, is that most light comes from heat. And he put it way more eloquently than I can. But yeah, no, it's where you just try to water everything down and meet in the middle. And there is, between truth and lies, there is no middle ground. And that's the only difference, is Purple Pill are the ones that try to temper the truth with more palatability, which is ridiculous. So all you're saying is you want to feel better.
It's very dangerous too.
Yeah. Well, I look at it in these terms, okay, is there's the Purple Pill is meant to be sort of this amalgam or this mixing of blue pill, a bit of blue pill with a bit of red pill. What parts are you trying to mix? Because whenever I analyze these guys who want to tell me, well, here's why red pill is wrong, X, Y, and Z, and because it's wrong, these parts of blue pill are that you learned have more validity than you thought they did. And I will tell you right now, it's simply bullshit. Okay. And second of all, because no one has ever been able to sort of, refute the kind of stuff, the red pill awareness and the red pill intersectional dynamics that I go into. They don't refute it. They say it's there, but they don't think that is as impactful. And the reason they say that is because they really desperately want parts of their blue pill idealism that they've been taught since the time they were 5 years old to be true. They want that perfect girl. Like a good example of this is when I say men and women have differing concepts of love. Okay. Men see love idealistically and women see love in an opportunistic fashion because hypergamy pushes them into being more opportunistic. I don't mean that in a bad way. Opportunism, women's opportunism when it comes to hypergamy has been something that has benefited the human race up to this point, but it can be pretty fucked. Okay. It can be very unethical and very immoral, which is why we try to control for hypergamy. But by my saying that there are 2 different concepts of love, what I'm saying is that this is a red pill idea that there are 2 different concepts of love and they're unique to either of the sexes. Whereas a blue pill idea says, no, 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 there's only one. And I hope that I can find a woman who loves me as much as I love her, you know? And it's this Disney-esque mutual understanding of what love is between the sexes. I'm not saying I never said that men and women cannot love each other. They can, they do. And the best time when that comes together, I'm going to use myself and my wife. I understand her concept of love. She understands my concept of love. And more importantly, I understand my own concept of love, and I understand the limitations of what it can and cannot be with a woman who I've spent 21 years with right now, and I've had a great time. I love my wife. Everybody says, oh, he must have a problem with his wife. No, not at all.
Congratulations, bro.
Yeah, I was going to say is that, yeah.
Well, it sounds like the blue pill is like a forced homogenization of two concepts of love. So all you're doing is specifying it to each biological sex, which is totally
that's one example of many. Like, they want to go back to that because the idea of a mutual concept of love is very appealing and very comforting. In fact, all of the stuff that I would say purple pill guys want to re-embrace is stuff that is so comforting to them that they cannot let it go. It's like a safety blanket. They don't want to let go of that. I always say they don't want to look across the abyss, but what they really don't want to do is they don't want to let go of the safety blanket that the blue pill represents, because it means they're going to have to recreate themselves. It means that they're going to have to, at least in their mind and their personalities, they're going to have to zero themselves out, and they're going to have to rebuild from scratch. And when you get a guy who has lived his entire life in the blue pill and suddenly he becomes red pill aware, what's he going to want to do? Rebuild himself in a red pill way? Or is he going to want to try to find ways to make his old blue pill idealisms work for him? And I really think that that's where I separate the most from purple pill guys. And it's because they'll get married, just like we were talking about. I would say 90% of these guys either are in a long-term relationship or they were married. And it's very, very few purple pill guys aren't married or aren't in a long-term relationship. And I think that what they're trying to do is they're trying to justify and legitimize and validate their relationship with their wives or their girlfriends and sort of make it palatable to the girl. Okay. So if you got a guy like, Tucker Max is a good one, but there's a lot of other examples I could use.
Mark Manson comes to mind immediately.
Todd Valentine is another one. All the guys who want to say that Rollo's work is truthful anger, all of these dudes fit the same fucking profile. And that profile is they were players or they were instructors or they were, game practitioners who either got a woman pregnant accidentally or met the one because they never really let go of all those blue pill idealizations. They met the one and now they've got to force fit all of that stuff, all that game ideology into their relationship, and they have to make it work. So the only thing they can do at that point is, because they can't go out to the clubs anymore. They've got a kid waiting at home. Or if they make a living off of doing that, it can only be to a certain extent. Or if they do that, it's their job. But if you look at guys like, I'm just going to throw out RSD here for a second. If you look at RSD right now has changed their tune. There's a lot of good old stuff on there. I'm not bad mouthing anybody in particular, but they have gone from a narrative of game and infield videos and really helping guys out to this power of positive thinking. And they've changed the dynamic of it. It's no longer about, teaching guys to get laid. It's how guys can live this, positive, successful. It's like the Zig Ziglar, Tony Robbins kind of message now.
Well, with Reverend Julian, I mean, why not?
Yeah, exactly.
Everything life we need.
Yeah, and it's this hippy dippy new age idea that we're all friends and it's all good and nobody's out to get you. And I'm like, okay, fine, but nobody's saying they're out to get you. The problem that they have right now, particularly purple pill guys, the biggest problem that they have with me is that I am out there telling guys what's up. I'm telling guys, here's in no uncertain terms, here's the definition of hypergamy. Here's the definition of what women are doing. Here's how it translates from the personal level all the way up to the political level. And I'm not saying it's right or wrong. You guys can make that decision. I think I got a good idea of what you're going to say because I think, I see how this works out. I'm not trying to make anybody paranoid. I'm not even saying it should make you angry. I'm just saying this is how it is. But by me doing that, it goes counter to this positive thinking, personal improvement mantra that they're selling, $3,000 seminars to. Yep. And so there's that element of it right there, because if I'm out there putting this truth out there and it goes counter to what it is that they're trying to sell, well, of course they have to do that. That's why I've gotten the last 2 years, 3 years, it's always been the same criticism. It's always, oh, it's truthful angles. Like, well, yeah, it's truthful, and yeah, you will get angry because that's a part of the phase, but they never see anything past that, because if they did, then they would have to recognize that what I write saves lives. They'd have to recognize that guys see the red pill as a safety net for themselves to go out and try things and not to be worried about getting zeroed out, because they're now, all of their idealism is based in a red pill paradigm and not in a blue pill paradigm anymore. So for me to say that, it's dangerous to them. It's dangerous to their revenue. It's dangerous for me to say, no, I disagree with that. And let me tell you why you're not only are you going to get raked over the coals, you're teaching other guys to get raked over the coals at a later time.
Carl, did you want to add to that?
Well, I just thought about the distinction between the red pill and the purple pill. And the best analogy I can come up with is, in gendernomics, I describe a man as a company. And a big problem that many companies have is they have a way that they make money, which is their core business. And they have a lot of what they call corporate social responsibility, like diversity initiatives, training, schooling, etc. And you have to strike a balance between those two, because if your focus goes away from the way your company makes money over to the corporate social responsibility, like with the Delta NRA thing last week, you actually hurt your core business through your focus on something that's not your core business. And that's the problem with the purple pill. It's saying that your core business, which should be the red pill, is sidelined with this corporate social responsibility bit, which is the blue pill. And we're trying to balance these two against each other, but the reality is sooner or later one will get more focused than the other, which is usually the one that makes you feel good, which is this corporate social responsibility. If you're exporting weapons to Libya, you're not going to feel good about being a war profiteer, but you're going to feel good about the meals you're sending out to inner city schools, so you're going to put more resources into that. And the best, I think Bill Maher had a joke years ago that kind of highlights this, because he read a sex therapist who said couples should focus on their mutual sexual fantasies. And he responded that there is no such thing. Yours bore us and ours offend you. There is no such thing as a sexual scenario where a woman is being chased by a dragon, a man kills the dragon and then tenderly makes love to her in a field of roses and then comes on her face.
I miss when Bill Maher was funny.
Well, I was going to also, just to sort of dovetail into what Carl's saying here, is that, and Anthony, you already know that this is no secret between us, but I have really strong reservations about Socrates, because I really think that a lot of his stuff sort of traverses over into the purple pill. And the reason I say that is because, he proudly announces that, he has more female readers than he has male readers. And I say, that's not a good sign, man. And I think that when guys go from that red pill dynamic to wanting to appeal to women, in particular, I think that you're going to water down your message. You're not going to be as honest as you probably should be, because you're trying to cater to women's sensibilities. Now, the guy who really did this was Athol Kay for Married Man Sex Life and the Married Man Sex Life forums, and I can give him shit, because I used to talk with him when he just had a blog and he didn't have a book and he didn't have a forum or anything, but he essentially had a pretty red pill message for married men with his Married Man Primer, his first book. I thought it was great. And then he comes out with the mindful attraction plan for men, and you can see the influence of his wife, because now his wife is part of the coaching team, and he's allowed women to pretty much take over his forums. And you see this influence of women's sensibilities, and women love the parts of the red pill that serve them best. If they want a really masculine guy, or they're looking for the right guy, they're looking for these, that's why red pill for for women has become such a niche marketplace, because the guys there are attractive to them. They are these guys who are interested in self-improvement. They're interested in understanding, the truth about intersexual dynamics, and they want to get at that, and they want to be, for the most part, want to be masculine guys who are going to be dominant and who are going to take over they're going to be like guys that these women are not used to seeing. They're not used to being around and attracted to. And so consequently, what they do is they insert themselves into these forums, and they completely change the entire dynamic. And that's one of the reasons why Married Man Sex Life forums are gone now, because it had become such a bitch fest for these guys' wives, that had involved themselves in their man's red pill reconstruction, which is in no way authentic. And that's one of the reasons why it's gone. But you have this influence, this idea that you have to cater to women's sensibilities. And just on a final note here, I just want to say that one of the reasons that I don't do this for a living is because it would remove me from my element. I don't want to ever have to depend on being Rollo Tomasi for my income. Okay. I don't want to ever have to worry about, selling X amount of books or whatever. I mean, I'm glad that I make some money off my books. It's a nice side gig. Okay. But I never want to be dependent on it, because the moment I'm dependent on it is the moment I would start having to cater to my readers' sensibilities. I need to tell people what they don't want to hear. I need to tell them stuff that's going to piss them off, it's going to kick them in their ass, and that's going to challenge their ego investments that they've had, that the blue pill has put into them for a very, very long time. And I can't do that if I'm trying to hold their hands and trying to play patsy and saying, yes, the red pill will make you angry, but it's okay, because in the end, you're going to be able to achieve these blue pill ideals, and you're going to live happily ever after with your wife who's going to love you and want to fuck you like a porn star and be a great mother to your kids. And it's just, yeah, exactly. And it's what's called the feel good red pill right now. And I'm never going to do that. And I never want to be in that position to have to do that.
I don't think you would have to necessarily, but you'd be confronted with the choice, and the consequences to either choice would be pretty severe. Mm-hmm. And I think, in my opinion, that's what RSD is facing, and they're failing to make a good choice. And I'm saying that openly, and as a CEO and founder of the 21 Studios, like, I think Tyler and all these guys are very familiar with your work. They've talked about it openly at some points now for a while.
I talk to Owen a lot.
Yeah, they know, they have an idea, I think, of what direction they could take their company, and they're not. They're taking it instead in the pop thinking, power positive thinking. Everything's positive. Everybody gets along. Because it makes them more money.
And then,
it's like you're fucking
and then look at this. I mean, the last time we were talking, two shows ago, we were talking about Jordan Peterson and everything, and how there's this generation of lost boys out there who want some kind of direction. Okay, they want to have somebody tell them to clean up their room. They want somebody to say, suddenly this is a radical idea right now, because this generation never had positive, masculine, dominant fathers to kick them in the ass and teach them discipline and teach them how to come back from defeat and teach them all of these conventionally masculine traits and skills. We don't have that anymore, but we do have a generation of kids who are happy to jerk off to porn, smoke pot, and order pizza, or whatever they have to do, and not have to really do anything. And I understand the incentives behind that, or the lack of incentives to do anything more than that, but it doesn't eliminate the fact that we have a very large group of boys and men in this country, and even just young men, even men just under 30, are still this sort of lost generation, and they're looking for somebody to tell them the truth and tell them where to go and give them some kind of direction. So they look for a guy like Tony Robbins. They look for a guy like Peterson, and they look for they look for somebody like Rollo Tomasi.
The RSD guys too,
and the RSD guys know this. That's why when you see all of their videos these days, it's like a pep rally. They're jumping up and down, and they're like, yeah, it's like suddenly these motivational speakers are rock stars. And they have to keep this energy up, and they have to keep this hype going all the time, because it's really more about feeling good about yourself, and it's really more about, like I said, power positive thinking, motivational speaking. Get your shit together. I mean, really, what's RSD selling that Peterson isn't? Peterson's telling him, get your act together and make your bed, and pretty much selling the same thing that Tony Robbins is selling, and selling, I should say that the product is the same. So Peterson's selling his thing, Tony Robbins selling his thing, RSD selling his thing, these purple pill life coaches who've decided that, you know, the most profitable way to go is to teach these guys, say, look, here's some red pill stuff, but it'll help you be a better person. And that better person is who the blue pill told you to be when you were 5 fucking years old.
Well, so, I loved Chris Shepard is he's an instructor at Love Systems, formerly Mystery Method. And I believe actually he's one of the people running Love Systems at this point, like actually has command over what they do. And you've seen him on Twitter. You've gone back and forth with him, as have I. He actually looked at your blog and looked at your posts and ideas on hypergamy. He actually seemed to look at them. And his response to hypergamy, in your sense and the entire red pill, was trust. Like this simplistic, childish, blue pill bullshit. I was appalled. I have talked to this guy before, Chris Shepard. I was just fucking appalled at like the level of like just no depth to it. Like didn't even take the time. Like has the awareness, has the game experience, has banged the chicks, has been an instructor for years and years and years, and his only response to the issue of hypergamy is find a girl you trust. It's like, and this guy's selling workshops for $5,000 a whack and stuff like that.
Yeah,
it's insane.
Well, go ahead.
I was like, it's funny you mentioned that because we were talking about the mindful action plan before, and I think it's a perfect metaphor for this entire thing. It used to be called the male action plan. So they literally took male out of the red pill. And this ties into the purple pill. You ever notice it's always about tempering it? It's meeting in the middle. It's never actually like, well, we'll take half of your things, half of mine. I'll temper mine, you temper yours. It is always leaning towards the side of what's good for girls.
Exactly.
Because girls have lack of self-awareness to have any self-doubt. So it's my way and that's good. And that ties into why these purple pill coaches and gurus and that end up getting married and then completely going back on it. Tucker Max is now Tucker Pussy. No offense, Tucker. Because they meet the girl, she's the one, and she says, all right, enough with that player bullshit. Now settle down. And they just fucking buckle. And this is something, Rollo, and I've never really discussed it with you, but I really should. Your first iron rule is the most important one, and I think you'd agree with that, right? That's why it's
number one. Yeah.
It is the single rule that people ignore and fuck up more than anything is frame. Now, had Tucker had a spine to him, he would still be Tucker Max with wife. He would still be Rollo Tomasi with wife. Like, you haven't changed that much since you were Rockstar guy. You matured. We're all going to mature. We're not going to be the same crazy asshole we were when we were 21. That's a part of life. But it doesn't mean you turn into a giant pussy. And it's just supposed to show you, that's the male problem. It's not about direction. It's about frame. They can make their own direction, but they don't even try.
Well, earlier on, we were talking about how, is there a point where guys have a wall where they want to settle down and have kids? And I would say that for most guys, there is a desire to see their own kids and to have their own kids. In fact, I've written a post called The War on Paternity right now, and how just from an Evo bio perspective, how important paternity is for guys. So if it's something that's part of our mental firmware, I would definitely say that there is definitely something that's part of guys that wants to have that one-on-one, even if it's just temporary, we want to have that one-on-one relationship with a woman. And if you can make that last for a lifetime, great. Here I am married for 21 years. I'm not going to tell you not to get married. But I will tell you not to get married from the perspective of that you shouldn't get married because of all the risks and everything that goes along with it. Today's modern marriage, I cannot endorse modern marriage today because the risks are just too high. And you know what? There's generations of, actually 2 or 3 generations of guys who agree with me. That's why we have this war or this boycotting marriage or this men on strike kind of thing.
The sexist stuff.
Divorce is the new lung cancer. Do you remember when everybody used to know somebody who died from smoking? Now it's everybody knows somebody who died from divorce.
Right. Well, and so what happens then is like, okay, so how do you deal with that from a red pill perspective? How do you say, well, I know that I'm going to want kids. I know I'm going to want to have a wife at some point, even if the risks are high. I want kids bad enough that I'm willing to take that risk. Well, there's ways to mitigate that. There's ways to protect yourself before you get into that long-term relationship. Okay. First of those is you need to be 100% red pill aware. You need to have that internalized as part of who you are, and you need to have the most dominant frame that you possibly can before you go into the relationship. You need to give up on all of that blue pill idealistic hope, and you need to replace that with a more self-centered, self-important red pill paradigm goals and set out goals and set out ambitions that you want to achieve for yourself that are realistically possible within a red pill context. Have that for yourself as well. Understand and accept the fact that you are going to get into a position where you will likely lose half of your shit, and you might lose all of your kids. Yeah. Or I mean, it's dangerous. And we talk about this all the time on the Married Red Pill, just how dangerous that is. But if your only option to have kids and to have a good, healthy family is to have a wife, at least go in with your eyes open and understanding what you've got. Because if you look at these guys, if you look at what are the commonalities between Tucker Max, Mark Manson, this guy Shepard, Evan Mark Katz, all these guys.
Todd, same thing.
Yeah, RSD Todd.
White males.
Yeah, well, I mean, now RSD Todd is now, well, at least before he got kicked. I shouldn't even call him RSD Todd anymore because he got kicked out of RSD because he got into some sort of fight with Papa. But he's no longer part of that. But what is he selling now? He's selling a program on how to get a girlfriend. And what this is it's literally a blueprint of what I outlined in Dream Girls and Children with Dynamite. He's giving dynamite to kids because they don't know what to expect. He's just showing you, here's how you get a great girlfriend, right? But at the end of that, if you're not red pill aware, you're going to end up like Mystery, suicidal because you can't make your blue pill dreams a reality. And I think that selling that to guys, especially a generation of guys who are desperately looking for this stuff, and they want that their loneliness and their want to be in a relationship is sort of like a fat woman wanting a magic pill to make her skinny again.
Well, here's a real fucking head trip. RSD or Todd Valentine is not even true mainstream, right? He's just a popular YouTuber and former RSD instructor. That's the quality of advice that guys will pay money for. Is basically, some of your blog posts put into a product, but compare that to what they see in the mainstream, your average guy. He sees CNN promoting cuckolding as an improvement to your literal Evo bio cuckolding as an improvement to your fucking relationship.
Yeah, and
that's how far the environment has fallen for advice and
that's only one of many articles written about that. I was talking about that with Pat Campbell's show. We were talking about open cuckoldry, which we've progressed from open hypergamy all the way to open cuckoldry. And again, if you are a purple pill life coach, you can't help but want to write for someone. You're not trying to tell them what they need to hear. You're telling them what they want to hear, because that is what's going to sell your seminars and sell your books and sell your clients some time to do that. And I got to make a distinction here, because I can get behind guys like Goldman, or I can get behind guys like Christian McQueen, because I know these dudes and I know that they're red pill and I know what they're about. And I know that I know what their gig is, and I know what their incentives are. But so I have to make a distinction between those guys and, like, say, the Mark Manson or the Evan Mark Katz or these guys. And they all follow the same template. They all follow the same commonalities. They all have the same, like what you're talking about. What's about comfort? They all have these blue pill preconceptions.
No, it's all about trust, Rollo. It's all just trust.
Yeah, well, and that's funny you should say that, because, like, what is that? That's negotiation. You're negotiating the desire with that woman. It's like even Peterson, Dr. Peterson's talking about, you need to negotiate things with your wife and you need to do this. And it's like, and then you'll have a happy relationship. And I'm just like,
but dominance hierarchies have existed for 300 million years.
Yeah. So he ends up contradicting himself in those, but it's like, it follows that plan. And I forget who said it, but there's maybe Carl knows. There's this famous quote of this guy, is that you cannot teach somebody, a lesson if their revenue depends on them not learning that lesson. I forget who said that, but it's very simple. You're not going to teach these guys anything, because their livelihood is invested in other people not getting it.
Yeah, and I think that's why, Rollo, you mentioned very explicitly when you recently were talking about the convention on your blog, I took a pretty big risk, a real big risk, in fundamentally, like you mentioned, making a U-turn in a lot of ways. But even more broadly, fundamentally shifting the direction of the convention towards the red pill. I did take a big risk with that. I was willing to do that, though, because to me, it's what's true, what's what matters, not all the money and stuff like that. This is a real company. It's been in operation for over 10 years. But you know what? I was willing to take that risk, and I'm glad I fucking did. And I wish companies like RSD would do that, but they don't.
I still can't believe you let me on your fucking thing, man. You never heard of me. There was no photo. I could have been a big fat fuck, and you had no fucking clue. None.
Risks are, I mean, there's an element of masculinity to risk taking, but even more than that, I took the risk because I believe what you guys were talking about is true and worthwhile to discuss and give a platform to. Well, come hell or high water with the attendees, with the viewers. I love that.
And I think you can. I think you can only go up from there too. And it's like I don't think it's any secret that I'm going to be at the next one, and most likely Ryan will be too.
Jack Murphy, Ed Lattimore.
What I was going to say is that it was a risk, and I applaud you for taking that risk. And I think that from here on out, if you stay true to red pill intersexual dynamics and just being brutally honest and brutally straightforward with people, I think you can only go one. I mean, we've needed a convention like this. We've needed a summit, or what I call a red pill summit. We've needed that for a long time now, and this is at least some step towards that. And I mean, you've got some other ideas that you're going to be introducing pretty soon that will be made public, and I'm not going to reveal those at this point, but there's a lot of things that you are talking about that I could certainly get on board with. And a lot of, like I keep telling guys, is I'm not going to do this for a living. I don't have any real interest in doing this for a living, but I will say that I would definitely want to be a part of whatever you have, coming up.
Thank you. Hell yeah. Yeah, I mean, this information is needed in these discussions. Like, I mean, I want to make as much money as possible for the company to make the platform bigger and make these ideas, more and more a part of the discourse that people have on a daily basis. So I fucking love it. I hope your talk that just came out that gets millions of views, and it damn well might, and that's going to be fucking awesome. And it's going to trigger the shit out of people, and they need to be triggered to be aware.
I still think it needs to. I would love to have. I mean, if I'm already helping you, sort of figure out who the next speakers are going to be, but I think that we need to have a good depth and breadth, because like what we were talking about in the beginning of this show was about how different different people's stories and different people's experiences and their messages crosses over into sort of this whole cloth of the red pill. So like when I was watching the videos from the convention, there's stuff in there like I would go, what am I ever going to need this for? But like something that, like, say Christian or Goldman or Ryan or something, they might say something, and then that might cross over into something I've said and written about, and then that might trigger something in someone else to say, well, I got it. Even the dude who we had as the body language expert, Joe Navarro, I learned a lot from that.
Joe was awesome.
I learned a lot from that guy. And I think it's like the whole thing. It's like you get a little bits and pieces from everybody. And I'm glad people, like my book as sort of this general resource, but I'm not the only guy out there. And that's why I wanted to get Ryan, and I wanted to get Hunter, and I wanted to get, Goldman and Christian and everybody else there, because I think that it represents all different facets of the red pill, and it's not just one-sided. It's not just about picking up chicks or whatever. It's just there's so much more to it. And you can live.
We're all feeding off each other, like I was saying in the beginning with that the flea school. How you're all swapping each other. Navarro had his speech on body language positive. I'm up there doing the upwards body language. You notice Hunter was rewriting his speech as I'm giving mine, because it gave him a bunch of ideas about this thing.
Oh yeah. I've called it for years. It's the cross-contamination or sex between ideas is what's happening.
Cross-pollination, man. Yeah, and it's and the other thing is, I found this out, and I kind of wanted to bring this up with you, but just because I don't agree with the guy doesn't mean you shouldn't have him there, because I think that also provides a counterbalance to say, okay, well, if it's all just this one fucking echo chamber, then you're not really getting two sides of the story there. So, I mean, it's one thing to bring on a guy who is actively trying to promote his purple pill life coaching, seminars and everything else. But it's another guy to go, okay, Rollo, I think you're full of shit because of X, Y, and Z. And let me tell you why. I'm all ears. I want to know that, because that's how we develop things. That's how we grow things. There are many principles that I've been wrong about that guys have corrected me on. And I go, yeah, you're right. I need to go revise that.
In my personal opinion, guys, I think there is a difference between purple pill maybe not coaches, but just purple pill individuals and purple pill profiteers. And the difference is like intent. The purple pill profiteers, I think, have a lot more awareness, not only of why they're wrong, but they're willing to leverage that to make money. And that to me is sick. If someone's purple pill and they genuinely believe in what they believe and it's a purple pill idea, I don't have a huge problem with that, because like you're saying, it brings discourse, discussion, and debate, which if both people are honest, then, you know, rationality, I think, will win out in a long enough time span. But when you involve like money and like this hunger for it and like a dependency on it, like an addiction, right. I think that's what these guys really are.
When your next meal is coming from the paycheck of your blue pill life coaching business, then yeah, you don't have really any incentive to do anything otherwise. And I think that the guys who are the profiteers are playing on this insecurity that guys have when they're crossing over and they're unplugging from being blue pill to being red pill. And then like they get angry or they get upset because of something that I had said. And so these guys jump in and they go, oh, no, Rollo, he's great, but he's wrong about this. And let me tell you why. And then they basically play on the insecurity that would really benefit a guy to push past if they would just listen to what I'm talking about and really internalize that and make it a part of who they are and learn how to find hope, like I said, in the red pill paradigm. But they never get to that point because the guy says, well, most purple pill coaches, they recognize that insecurity in that guy, and they recognize that guy really wants to hang on to his dream girl idealization. He really wants to make all of his Disney dreams come true. And these guys go,
lies.
Yeah, these guys say, oh, well, he's good, but let me tell you why you can still have those blue pill ideals. And it never works out. I mean, these guys will end up going, with these dudes and listening to what they say and having these consults with them and never really go anywhere and never really, like you get a guy like Purple Pill, the guy who was in our chat just a little while ago, and he thinks that I've done it for 2 weeks, I can't get past it. And maybe he met a guy like Mark Manson and decided to go with his coaching. And how do I know? I don't know. I don't know who he's decided to make his guru or whatever. But you get mad at me, or you get mad at something that I say, and you don't want to accept that. And you got another guy who's making a living off of selling you the solution to your blue pill problems. Who are you going to listen to?
Yeah. I have actually some advice for that Purple Pill guy. Go to the bar, suck 6 dicks. And then you can tell girls you're bisexual, and they love a challenge. Try that, and I guarantee you'll increase your success with women at least 12%.
Carl, did you want to hop in on this?
Well, I just found myself thinking a little bit about the blue pill illusion versus delusion, because I've written about both sides of it. And it's one thing if it's like you said, if it's a guy who genuinely believes his blue pill perspective or his purple pill perspective. But it's another thing if they're either actively engaging in self-deception or they're having someone else deceive them with malicious intents, either consciously or subconsciously. Like if I try to sell snake oil to Ryan and say it's 21-year-old Scotch, then that's immoral to do. If I buy a bottle of whiskey from Rollo, or Rollo told me it's whiskey, and I try to sell that to Ryan as whiskey, and turns out it's snake oil, then I can't be held morally liable for believing what Rollo told me.
We can't be friends anymore, man.
Yeah, it's going to be a problem. Who said we were friends to begin with?
Ooh.
Ouch!
Burned, dude.
The same advice I gave to Purple Pill there. 6 dicks.
Only 6.
All right, guys, we don't need to close up immediately, but let's start kind of winding this down. What are the closing thoughts on Purple Pill profiteering specifically? Like guys who are coaches in some respect, life coaches, dating coaches, whatever the fuck, for men that have red pill awareness and deliberately, in some way and for some reason, water it down and then sell it. I mean, you can name names like we have. We've talked about a number of them, some of which have been speakers, like Mark Manson is a former speaker at the convention. I mean, yeah, so you guys, closing thoughts on this? How dangerous is it? What to be aware of? Why is it bad? There's plenty of it on YouTube.
I think you need to look at the fact that any change you make is going to make you uncomfortable. And I think a lot of the guys, they play off the discomfort of making a change. For instance, a big part of learning to have a frame is learning to have boundaries and actually enforcing your boundaries. And that's going to be uncomfortable. When you go from saying yes to everyone to telling people no, you're going to feel uncomfortable and you're going to feel like an asshole. If you prioritize yourself over others, you're going to feel selfish or you're going to feel self-absorbed. That's normal because you're deviating from what's easy for you and what's normal. So you just have to kind of grit your teeth and live through it. The other thing...
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Carl?
Oh. Yeah. Carl, I was going to say that at this stage in my sort of red pill persona, loosely defined as a career, I think that I have skin in the game. I really do. I honestly have skin in the game when it comes to this kind of stuff, especially with what I do as, in my own business and personal life, as well as, what I've learned for a long time. But my skin in the game isn't dependent upon a paycheck. Okay. So I don't have to worry about, where my next meal is going to come from if all of my books stop selling tomorrow. Right. And I think that puts me in a position to really, I don't want to call out these guys, but also to say it like it is and not have to worry about offending people. And so it's like they say, you need to be, what is it? I think it's Taleb says you have to be anti-fragile. Well, I'm about as anti-fragile as I can be right now. I don't entirely believe in anti-fragility because there's always something that your revenue is going to be dependent upon. So like, for instance, if I just started talking, if I suddenly went purple pill or I suddenly went blue pill and I went on Oprah and I said, oh, those guys are bullshit. And, I just completely sold out the red pill community. I would lose a lot of people, I would lose a lot of people, and maybe for a temporary gain or maybe for no gain at all. But I think that you have to watch for guys like that. You have to watch for guys whose their revenue is dependent upon the message that they're giving you and telling you what you want to hear. So I think if you're going to choose somebody to be your consultant, if you're the kind of guy who needs a life coach to begin with, I think you need to really sort of reevaluate things, because you're going to end up becoming that person. I think that you're going to end up having too much of, Athol K or whoever else rub off on you, because that's what they're selling. They're selling you on your insecurities, but they're also solving those insecurities with their own ideals. And I think that if you're at that point and you need somebody, like I'm not above like talking to people on the phone and helping them out. And that's one of the reasons why when I do that, I say, you know what, I'll take your money, but you pay what you want. It's like a pay what you want kind of thing, because that the next guy who needs help from me and he can't pay, well, that pays it forward for that guy as well. So yeah. That's one way I work it. But I think that you need to dissect and look at these guys' messages from a red pill perspective. That's one of the reasons I sort of even came up with purple pill as a designation, because people think it's an epithet. They think it's an insult. Like if I call you purple pill, I'm just dismissing you as purple pill. No, there's a reason I'm calling you purple pill. I'm calling you purple pill because of everything we've just talked about. You've gone back to these blue pill ideals and you're selling yourself and other guys on an idealism that you should have killed. You should have killed that beta. You should have unlearned the blue pill, parts or the blue pill entirely, and your conditioning and do your best to uncondition yourself. So when I hear like blue pill life coaches talking about how great one-itis is or finding your soulmate, that is literally a few of these guys' their podcasts and their videos on YouTube. They're saying, here's how to get your one, here's how to find your quality girl and make it last. And it's like, how is that
has that on the front of his website for his book?
How is that any different than like what Dr. Phil is selling or Oprah or anything? They're just telling you what sounds right to them. Right. It's like, that's why people love on Jordan Peterson when he's talking about negotiating desire with your wife. And it's like, No, I mean, this is negotiating desire. We've gone through, these are just some pretty, you know, red pill 101 concepts where it's like the soulmate myth. If somebody's telling you the soulmate myth is something that's achievable, you're dealing with a guy who is purple pill. Okay. Those are basics. So if a guy is trying to go back and reimagine the basics here, and you've got a good red pill lens, you can pretty much tell if that person is purple pill or not. And I also want to leave everybody with this, is that those guys, when they go and they try to reinstitute some of these blue pill ideals, remember the reason you were going to unlearn them in the first place. You're unlearning them because it's dangerous, because all these guys who are putting nooses around their necks and putting a gun in their mouth are the same guys who believed that their wife, they couldn't live without their wife, or they couldn't live without their one-itis, you know, long-term relationship. They believed that to the point where they were going to kill themselves because of it. So yes, purple pill can be very, very dangerous. And that's one of the reasons I like to come out against it a little bit, probably more, you know, enthusiastically than I should sometimes, but it is dangerous to follow these guys.
I agree with you. And it actually reminds me of things that would probably be maybe a prior or future blog post on Carl's blog. But the purple pill seems like a very unstable combination of ideas and personality directions to take. I speak from personal experience, trying to unknowingly interplaying red pill and blue pill ideas, but also seeing it, like you're saying, with dating coaches and stuff, who I know one in particular, one of our speakers, who had a very legitimate cluster B experience, but is so purple/blue pill, he refuses to fucking learn from the experience, even though he openly, publicly stated he almost killed himself. Took himself to the edge of a fucking cliff in Asia somewhere, to the point where his friends had to actually find him and pull him back literally from the ledge of death. So I don't know if Carl has kind of any additional commentary on that, but it reminds me of like a mental illness. Like it's a very unstable combination of qualities
I compare it to a mental illness in the first book, actually, one-itis.
Okay, yeah. Carl, do you have any input on that?
I've written a couple of blog posts that kind of cover it, but not completely. But I wrote a blog post where I kind of outlined the cluster of symptoms. I just can't remember if I published it or not. I have a draft folder in the 600s now.
Wow.
But I'll look it up, and when I find it, I'll make sure I post it just for you, Anthony. I'll even title it For Anthony.
Okay, cool.
And to tack on this, I'll say, if you're the kind of guy who's like unsure and the purple pill thing is appealing, I don't make a fucking dime off of this. I'm here because I want to learn as much. I'm not here to teach. I will give you 3 of the best purple pill coaches, and they've talked shit about me all the time. I'll throw them all the traffic they want. You go learn it the hard way, and when you're done, we'll have all this shit written down. You can come back whenever you want. Honestly, and like Rollo said, it's not a job for us. It's a hobby. It's something we have interest in. You don't have to buy it. You don't have to believe it. This is the complete anti-sales pitch. When you're ready, if you're ready, come on down. The material's all there. You can read whatever you want. But I'm not going to tell guys. Most guys don't want to anyway. I have a feeling that those guys doing the suicide over the wife are probably happier to go that route. And if that's your thing, fill your boots. But if you want to come to the side of being a professional asshole that has a nice, enjoying life, or a life of a guy with a 21-year marriage with a kid going to college, come on over. No big deal.
I like that. Professional asshole. That's going to go in my Tinder bio.
Well, I did just say on the podcast here to go suck 6 dicks and get back to me.
Great. You know, and what Ryan's talking about is like, I agree with that. I think that it needs to be part of the learning experience for some guys. They need to get pissed off and they need to go and try to do things on their own. In fact, I'm always said that I'm not in the business of making Rollo Tomassi clones. I'm in the business of helping guys make themselves better guys, that they want to do it on their own. I don't want anybody to say, yeah, I'm a Rollo Tomassi guy. I don't want that. I want you to say, I made myself because of what I learned from Rollo and from Roosh and from Royce and from whoever else, and I think that we also need to be welcoming these guys back instead of reading them the riot act for talking shit when they decide that they want to come around. And that's part of the red pill being an open source kind of community.
I'll tell you right now, I've seen attendees and fans of 21 Studios and the convention over the past year and a half do that. they were initially, in some cases they'll stay that way, but in a lot of cases they're not. They were initially very, very annoyed or triggered with my change in tune, with the convention, with women, with the red pill, with all these surrounding issues. But they stick around because they followed the convention for so long that now they're changing their tune. So those guys are welcome back if they're actually willing to make it a legitimate turnaround. I have no problem with that, 100%. Whether it's an attendee or whatever else, or just a fan. With that said, gentlemen, we've been going for about 2.5 hours now. I wanted to thank all of you guys for hopping on live. Obviously you, Carl, Rolo, and Ryan, and then Donovan earlier. Everyone tuning in live. We had over 1,000 people tune in, which is pretty badass.
Wow, nice.
Yeah, it's about 1,100 this time. Pretty sweet.
Yeah. And we should also say that are we official? We've named this the Red Man Group. Are we good with that?
Any
Blue Man Group? Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I was coming to, I think by next time we do this, I'll have a logo up and we'll actually make this a real legitimate.
I just like we're pulling up like Minecraft Let's Play numbers here. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah. Another thing too, for everyone listening, guys, we're planning to do this like we have been every other week, so bi-weekly. So the next time we do this should be in March. It'll be March 24th.
Yeah.
So stay tuned on March 24th at about the same time, 1 p.m. Eastern. Tune in live.
And we'd also like to get some other guys in too. I want to see if we can probably get Christian and Goldman.
Yeah.
I would love to get Ed Lattimore on here. That'd be awesome.
Yeah. Yep.
Blue Man Pickup Artist Group.
Yeah. Plenty of opportunity. Yep. Everyone, thanks for tuning in live. I will put in the description links to Donovan's channel and everyone else's Twitter accounts, blogs, websites, things like that. Appreciate it. Appreciate you guys' support, especially the super chats. Appreciate that moolah, mucho dinero. Shit ain't free. Gentlemen, thanks for your time. And stay on the line. I'm going to end the broadcast now. See you guys.